Okay, I should be back. No. Am I back? Let me know if I'm back. There we go. I think we're back now. That was weird. Connection's back. It's so strange. Like, I don't understand why it's doing that. Not to... Not to complain about, like, tech issues, but it's so strange. Like, I'm on a completely different laptop and it's still giving me problems. That's insane. I really don't understand why it's doing that. It's very, very, very odd. I will have to, maybe I can like do some tech investigation with like an IT person or something, because it's very, very, very odd. Let me just set up my phone here because my phone is on the wrong screen now. Should be this one. Okay, well, my stream... Oh, I see why it's here. It's because it's restarting from the beginning. Anyway, did this happen last stream too? Yes, it did. So let me just resize my window so I can actually see you guys. Just give me a sec, because now my phone is very confused. Need a Wi-Fi extender? I've got a Wi-Fi extender. It's literally next to me. That's what's so weird. Like, the Wi-Fi extender is right next to me here. And yet this is still happening. Oh yeah, you're back. As I was saying, Pocahontas was the first nail in the coffin for 2D animation, which is why it's such a frustrating movie to me. Pocahontas is a movie. Pocahontas is a movie. Pocahontas has so many things wrong with it on like a movie, from like a movie perspective, you know what I mean? Where it's not just that the movie like was badly done, because there's like the whole discussion about representation. Are we back? I think we're back. There's an entire discussion to be had for like representation regarding Pocahontas. And is it good representation? Is it bad representation? Most people seem to agree that it's relatively bad in terms of like representation of Native people. But I've also read interviews with some of the Native individuals who did voice acting for the movie, and some of them, I believe one of them is a chieftain, he said that the movie was incredibly important to helping foster better relations between Native people and the rest of America. And I mean, that's coming from one of the Native people that did voice acting for the film. So there is discussion to have there, but even if you ignore the representation and the question of how is it good representation, is it bad representation, it's not a good movie. Like, as a film, it's not a very good film. Guess who's here, ladies and gentledoms? Hey, da boy. My PC froze. Did my donation reach Avina? It did. Thank you so much, Catharsis. The demons banished it. No, they're back. And it's very strange, but it does prove once and for all, it's not my laptop that's the problem. It is definitely something to do with my connection. So I will have to look into how I can fix that, because I do have a network extender literally right next to me here. So it's very strange to me that it's still doing this. And it's not as if I have a slow connection either. My connection is relatively fast. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just cursed. That's what I like resorting to. It's like, you know what? Maybe I'm just cursed, and trying to figure it out is pointless at this point. Still having connections problems? Yeah, like I said, we're just gonna blame the tourists because it's easier. Because the thing is, I could like... Oh, thank you, Avina. Hey, Scooter, thank you so much. I once said you'd reach 15k subs and you doubted me. Now you're super close. Proud of you. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. I'm gonna flip this because it's easier to draw faces facing this way. That's so kind of you. Yeah, like that was quite surprising to me as well. Like I did not expect the Magnifico video to do as well as it has done. Especially for like a video where it ended up being a bigger project than I anticipated. But at the same time, I did not anticipate it doing as well as it has been. So, and that's given me a jump in views on other videos as well. It's also given me a jump in subscribers. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm not going to complain, right? But anyway, like I was saying with Pocahontas, it's not a good movie itself. There's a lot wrong with it. But that also leads me to wonder how much was that movie micromanaged by the higher ups at Disney, because they had so much riding on it regarding, oh, this is going to be our next masterpiece. This is going to be bigger than Beauty and the Beast. This is going to win us the best picture like Beauty and the Beast almost did. So how much micromanaging did Pocahontas receive? Because in my opinion, it's micromanagement that killed Disney's Wish. There's a lot wrong with Disney's Wish, but I feel like the movie could have had a chance had it not been micromanaged by the people in charge. Because unfortunately, that's something that nobody is going to talk about in interviews. They're not going to talk about how micromanaged they are by the business side of things, like how the marketing side of things dictates what they should and should not have in the movie, how certain aspects of the story should be changed based entirely on how it will affect what kind of merchandise they make. Because like Valentino, who I absolutely hate, that character is 1000% because they wanted marketing to happen with that character. That's the reason for a lot of these like comedic characters in Disney movies, because historically the like funny comedic sidekick character does very well for merchandising sales because they tend to be quite popular. And I think Olaf from Frozen just kind of reinforced that, right? Like it made it all the more obvious that it is a massive moneymaker. Sorry, I see here a quite long message from Gias. Also, while on the topic of representation, did you hear about a new Cartoon Network show called Iyanu? I hope I said that correctly. It's basically Avatar: The Last Airbender meets West African culture. Highly recommend giving it a watch when it releases April 5th. I'll give it a watch because that might be quite interesting. It's always interesting to me that the entire Western animation industry have kind of been chasing the high from Avatar: The Last Airbender basically since it finished airing. I know he's holding the gun in a very strange way. I'm doing my best here while I'm getting flustered due to tech issues. Give me a break. But pretty much instantaneously, people were trying to be the next Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I don't think Avatar: The Last Airbender had even finished airing before that became like a thing. More like too many cooks in the kitchen. None of them can cook and disagree with each other how cooking should be. That's exactly it. That is 1000% what it is. Because the guys who like work in the upper management of Disney, my friend pointed this out to me, and I think they are extremely correct because they also work in show business. They were saying that a lot of the people at the most top of any company, but in this case Disney, they don't have time to watch animated movies because they're too busy doing their jobs. So they're so busy actually doing their jobs that they never even watch the products that they're supposed to be making. And that's like an industry-wide problem. That's a problem with Hollywood as a whole, right? Is the guys in charge are too busy doing their jobs to have any kind of insight into the jobs that they're doing. And I'd like to imagine that's why the position of consultant exists, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure, because I don't think most people know what a consultant does. I once saw a video where people were asking people who work as consultants what their job actually is, and even the consultants couldn't really answer. They're like, I don't know. I make like $1,000 a month. I don't know what my position actually is. Kind of like that. And then I'll probably, I don't know if I want to trace over the gun, which I know tracing, but it's a mechanical thing. Do I have a 3D element of a gun at all? I mean, I can find one if I wanted to. Oh, I mean, I've got like a handgun. Yeah, I suppose we can grab that. Yes, I want to download it. Thank you. Okay, while that's downloading, close that. Open this, go back to here. Holy trigger discipline, Leon. There are zombies about. There's no time for trigger discipline. Also, this hand is rather big, and I'm kind of breaking the wrist here. Hold on. But yes, to go back to what I was saying, Pocahontas itself is not a very good movie. And I also wonder how much of that is corporate management, because corporate management is so often the reason for problems. However, not always, because I was thinking about this while I was watching something else. I was thinking about the auteur period of Hollywood history, which is like this late 70s, early 80s, where like directors had the final say in their movies, and the studios were pretty hands-off with letting the authors do whatever it is they need to do to get the movie done. And they didn't have much not insight, they didn't have much say into how the movie was made or any of that. They left that up to the director, but that resulted in a lot of movies that are also bad. Like, there are some horrendous movies from that time period. So really, there needs to be a good balance between the two when it comes to like a good project. And the effort and the issue is trying to find that balance, because it's so difficult. What's your opinion on Split Court? IMO hates it because the worst examples was this Paramount Plus show that shadow dropped along arc, and I would have recommended watching it, but it got split, and part 1 came out in March and has 6 episodes, and part 2 with 7 more episodes still isn't out, even though the creator said he wants it out in June this year. It annoys me. What about you? I'm not super familiar with the show, but that is actually a topic that I want to talk about when I do Velma season 2, which is the next thing on my schedule. Because I saw, not like a lot of people, but some people were asking how on earth did Velma even get a season 2? And that said to me, I don't know if a lot of people understand how modern cartoons work these days. That being that season 2 and season 1 is basically made at the exact same time. So while season 1 of Velma was airing, they were already making season 2. Like, that was already in production. So by the time all the backlash happened, season 2 was basically already done. It was already done and paid for. So it was basically just a pump and dump at that point. Goofus says, curious to know if you've heard of Epic, the musical, since it reached a creator or two. It reached a creator or two that I didn't think it would. I've heard the name, definitely. I've basically been nose to the grindstone the past few weeks because I was working on a new project with the studio. So I'm a little out of the loop with a few things. I mean, what else is new, right? But I'm a little out of loop with some things simply because I've been so busy getting this project like done, because we had a few problems. I can't say too much because I'm under NDA. We had a few problems, but we sorted it out, so it's not so big a deal anymore. But it does mean that I basically was not as online as I usually am, just because I was so focused on getting this done in time. Okay, Leon's eyes. Is he one of those characters who does like the squinty thing? Does he do the squint thing? Not really. I mean, he's frowning here, but he doesn't really have like the squinty eyes. The only thing I really know about Leon is like people absolutely love to like turn him into a baby girl. That's like my most well-known thing about this character, especially after he got added to like Fortnite, and then the things that people made him do in like Fortnite with the dances and stuff. I'm also sure you know, but thankfully after the special it got cancelled, so no more Velma after the special. Yes, it did get cancelled. It did get cancelled, but I think that even if they hadn't made season 2 at the same time as season 1, like if that wasn't already in production, the show would not have seen a season 2. Like that would not have happened. The only reason it happened is because it was already in production and it was already paid for. And yet it's surprising to me that Warner Brothers still put it out on their platform, because I mean, Warner Brothers, more than any other studio, they absolutely love doing that thing where they will finance a project and then just not release it and use it as like a tax write-off, basically. It's what they did with the Wile E. Coyote movie, and it's what they did with the Batwoman or Batgirl, one of them. It's what they did with that movie. So it's actually quite surprising that they did that. Velma season 2 even saw the light of day. I don't know if that was maybe an obligation on their part, so that they had to. They didn't really have a choice. But it's fine, because now I can talk about it. I've been putting it off, but I need to get to that. I can only put it off for so long, right? I would love to see you cover Velma season 2. I understand if you don't. Oh no. See, Velma season 2 is next. Like Velma season 2 is next on. I want to say the chopping block, but that makes it sound like so extreme. But you know what I mean. That's the next. That's the next show I'm going to focus on. I don't know if I'm going to focus on it to the level that I have the first Velma. Like, I don't know whether I'll do like an episode per episode breakdown, but I'll see like how much yapping I do, because it is a fact that I just don't know how to keep quiet. I try my best to edit down my statements. I think I have the ratio a bit long here. I've really made his nose quite big, which is not intentional. Let me see if we can fix this a little bit. Grab this and see if I can do it with this. Not like that. Do it this way. Do that. Grab, where's the liquefy tool? It's this one. And just kind of, oops, that's too that's too much. No, it's too small. And what strength are you? Oh, you're at 40, that's why. Bring it down a bit more. There we go, it's a bit better. What was I saying? Oh, Velma season 2, that's right. Have you watched any of Velma season 2 yet? No, I've been putting it off because it's going to be aggravating. But I don't think it's going to be aggravating for like the reasons people think. I assume it's going to be very much the same as season 1, where it's going to like try its hardest to come across as like edgy and like purposefully instigating the audience. And that doesn't really work on me for the most part. Like, I'm not somebody who gets upset by that kind of thing, simply because I will see that sort of thing and I will know that it's just kind of an attempt to piss me off. And because I know that's the intent of the creator, it doesn't really work, because if I know that that's all they care about, then like, why get upset about it, right? So I assume it's going to be a lot of that. However, it is going to be aggravating just because of like how, not banal. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not banal. It's something similar to banal. Basically, where it's just boring. It's just so boring and like high school and like purposefully edgy and trying to be as edgy as humanly possible. Like it's going to be a lot of that. And it's just tiresome, quite frankly. It's just kind of like, okay, right? It's the equivalent of like a teenager who so badly wants to impress you with how like dark and edgy they are, and like you can't really do anything but be like, all right, go off then. His head is a little too small. It's probably not too small technically, but it is just for the style I tend to draw in. Because I think I've made him quite buff, and this arm here, the proportions are completely off. Do that. That's a bit better. There we go. I might bring his chest in a bit because I think it might be a bit too muscular. Put this up to 12. Who are we drawing? I was out of range for a while. We are drawing, somebody requested Leon, so I'm going to make my best attempt because I haven't drawn in a while, simply because, like I said, I've been busy with the project with the studio. And when I'm busy doing that, I don't really have time to like sit and draw. And because the projects that I work on, like what is required of me is so different to sitting down and drawing, because I'm on cleanup, right? I'm usually on cleanup and I guess quality control is the right word for it. Basically, it's my job to go over scenes, add color, add shadows, make sure the line art is what it's supposed to be, make sure the colors are all correct to the characters, just kind of make sure that this, make sure that the scene is the way it's supposed to be. So it's not really a lot of sitting down and drawing. It's a lot of like detail work. I'm just gonna hit Alt, give me a sec. There we go. What did Monster? I love how Velma tries to justify the character's bad behavior. It's like me saying, I got anxious, so I defrauded a major corporation and sparked an international incident between two nuclear powers. Yeah, because the thing is as well, right? I know I make it out as if I'm super annoyed at the creators of a show when I cover it. But I'm not really, right? Because I don't know the people who create these shows personally. So although I get like frustrated with what they say in interviews and such, I don't know them personally. I don't know who these people are. But Mindy Kaling, she just comes across as a really unlikable person. This eye is in the wrong place. She comes across as an extremely unlikable person, and I don't like her, and her personality, it comes across in the show itself, right? Like you can tell from the show that Mindy isn't a great person, right? It just, you get that feeling. It's very easy to tell that that's the kind of person she is. So it makes the show all the more annoying, because I'm trying not to like pass personal judgment on the people who make it as people. But then I see Mindy Kaling saying things that she said in interviews. I'll never get over the interview where she said she forced a kiss on a co-star on a project that she was like the director on. And when people told her she can't do that, she told them, well, tell anyone, then you're fired. Like that quote lives rent-free in my mind, like to this day, just because I could not believe what I was hearing. And I could not believe that people were sitting there and cheering her for it. It was absolutely insane. And so things like that just kind of stick in my mind as I'm watching a show like Velma, because how can I pretend that's not a thing that happened? How can I pretend that that's not something that Mindy herself said, right? There's no way to like unsee that interview. And the fact that Mindy didn't see anything wrong with it, like she thought it was a funny haha thing to mention on like a late night talk show. She just thought it was funny. Like that's insanity to me, and I think it speaks of her character in an uncharitable way. And when I watch Velma, which is very much like her baby, like Velma is, if nothing else, a pure reflection of Mindy as a comedian and as a creator. It's very difficult for me to pretend that I'm not aware of the things that she said in interviews and the things that she's done, just because they are so reprehensible to me. So it's difficult because it's like I am trying to critique the show as a show, but I am fully aware of the person that made it. And it's not like that you can't separate art from artist or anything like that. You can absolutely do that. It's just in Mindy's case, it's extremely difficult just because of the way that the show itself is written. And it's very, very frustrating. Let's do that. I don't know why I decided he should be holding a gun of any kind, because this is not something that's easy to do while I'm like talking on a live stream, but here we go. Like that, yes, that should be good. Put this underneath, make it smaller, hide this, go here, okay. What's chat saying? I couldn't care less about Avowed. Supervillain behavior, yeah. Oh, Velma, for a sec, I watched the video from Toonerific Tariq about cartoon creators and him mentioning how Velma was more the fault of the Charlie Grandy guy. I mean, that's possible, but the other thing is Charlie Grandy and Mindy Kaling have been collaborators on projects forever. They have made, I think, absolutely every single project that either of them have been on, one has been on the other. So it's not as if he was this guy who came out of nowhere and ruined the production. He was somebody who Mindy has collaborated with multiple times in the past, and they worked together to make this thing because they were both on the same page. Like, that's what it boils down to. So even if he was the one, like it's more his baby than Mindy's, that's still not great because I don't know how to explain it. It's very clear that she had a large hand in production, and her style of doing comedy influenced how the show was written. And I think I mentioned this, I can't even remember if I mentioned this in the video or not, but Mindy Kaling is a live action comedian, and I think often live action comedians don't realize that what works in a live action show does not work in animation, because they're two completely different mediums, and you can't just translate the same kind of humor into animation and expect it to work the same way, because of the way that people perceive animated characters within a narrative. It's going to be very different than a character you play on like The Office. Okay, this is very rough and dirty, but here we go. Yes, I made a new one, so I'll hide this. Grab purple. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, and I need to see the reference. There we go. My firearm OCD going crazy. Yeah, sorry about that. I should have been like, no, maybe we shouldn't draw Leon because it's going to be difficult while I'm streaming to try and do like all these technical things while talking the whole time, but I didn't, so here we are. It's fine, we'll survive. I thought, this must be from like the remake, right? Because Leon didn't always have hair like this. He had like the 90s bangs. He had like the 90s curtains going on, right? Let's do that. There we go. Yeah, that drove me up the wall when I watched your coverage of Velma. They don't use animation to their advantage. Shows like Kill la Kill do way more gags with animation. Yeah, but the thing with Kill la Kill is it was made by Gainax. I can't remember if it was Gainax or Trigger. Same thing. But you almost can't compare it because it's a Gainax production, and Gainax does completely its own thing. Like Gainax, you can compare other animated Gainax, but I don't think you can compare like a Western adult animated show to like a Gainax anime. Let's see, it goes like this, goes like this, like that. His part isn't completely in the middle. That's also kind of what's throwing me off. There we go. Okay, here we go, here we go. So his hair is like that. And I think he just kind of has like... He looks a bit like Dimitri from Anastasia, actually. Like that. I think he just has like normal side part, and his hair is just straight. Forgot to say Vox Machina is Amazon Prime. Yeah, Vox Machina is another thing I have to get to. I've been in the mood for like some retro anime again. I put a post, I linked a video on my community post of an AMV this guy makes on YouTube. He's really good. He's done like a lot of AMVs using old school anime, but I linked a video where he did Macross Do You Remember Love, and it kind of got me in the mood for watching older anime again. So I've been thinking like maybe I should get back to trying to continue with Macross 7. I know it's not the best Macross, but it's the one that most grabs my eye just because I like the music from what I've heard. The thing is, why can't we? It's a sad state of affairs that Western animation is so pigeonholed to ambitionless kids stuff or adult comedies most of the time. That is fair, but I don't think it's, how do I say, not worthwhile. You can't say, oh, we want more of American animation, and then compare it to Gainax, who's like, or was the absolute best peak pinnacle of the entire industry, because I just think that's unrealistic. You can't expect the cream of the crop content if you want the American adult animation industry to lean more into being a better produced piece of content. I think like comparing it to like Castlevania is probably more apt, because Castlevania, despite the way it looks, that's an American production, make no mistake. It's not an anime despite its design and the way it looks. It is, for all intents and purposes, an American cartoon. And I think that is more what you would want to compare it to in terms of how good or how bad American cartoons can be, rather than trying to compare it to Gainax, which is like... It's like trying to compare Hanna-Barbera in the 80s to what Disney was putting out in like the Disney Renaissance. It's like trying to compare Rocking with Judy Jetson to like Beauty and the Beast. It's just an unrealistic comparison. It's not even that it's unfair, it's just an unrealistic comparison, because it's unrealistic to expect that level of polish and just ability from an industry who comes from a background of not even knowing how to start approaching that kind of animation. So to expect them to do it like right away is it's just unrealistic. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment, and you're setting up them for failure, because you're giving them like the most difficult thing to try and emulate. And honestly, I think that's a mistake that a lot of these American cartoons who take their influence from shoujo and stuff, I think that's a problem that they have, is they all try and aim for like what inspired them most, which is very admirable. It's something you should do. But then they try and do the exact same thing, like they want to be Sailor Moon, or they want to be Cardcaptor Sakura. And I'm like, Sailor Moon, it's not a perfect show. It's one of my favorites, but it's not a perfect show. But Sailor Moon is the product of a lot of veterans who came together to make that show. That wasn't somebody's first time show. It wasn't somebody's first time project. And even Sailor Moon, it took several seasons for Sailor Moon to become the Sailor Moon that people think of when they think of that show, right? So to come out of the gate and being like, I also want to make a show like Sailor Moon, and then try and pull it off as like your first project, that's kind of being a little overambitious. Because Sailor Moon was not Ikuhara's first project. I should look up what Ikuhara's first project is. I'm not entirely sure what he worked on first. I know that Toei was doing like Mapletown stories before they did Sailor Moon, and they did Goldfish Warning as well. And I believe several of them were working on like the reboot of Sally the Witch, Maho Shoujo's, not Maho Shoujo, Majo Sally, I think it's called. Majo Shoujo. It's a little tricky because Maho means magic, but Majo means witch. Oh man, I forgot to ask Shuna, have you seen Arcane Season 2? Some said it was bad, or at least disappointing. I need to get to it. That's another one on my list. That one's quite high. I might do that one before I do a lot of other things, because I've also heard a lot of noise regarding that. Some people are extremely vocal in how much they hated it, whereas other people feel that even though it's not perfect, the things that are good about it make it worth watching. And I mean, I'm fine with that. If a product can deliver in a way where it's not completely perfect, but it delivers something that no other production can, or it has like one thing that brings you back to it, I mean, that's perfectly fine. That's how I am with the Dragon Age series, not including Veilguard. Like, I stuck with Dragon Age for a very long time because I really liked the world building, and there were like one or two characters that I really enjoyed from Dragon Age. Namely, I really like Varric, and I even really like Dorian. I think Dorian's a really cool character. But I would be the first to like list the complaints I have with Dragon Age, because there are a lot. Because Dragon Age is far, far from a perfect series. Oh, and Alistar. I quite like Alistar. That's the other one. I get what you're saying about the comparison. The point in the back of my mind was that Kill la Kill does more animation gags while being a comedy show. That's true. And that is a problem across the board with American adult animated shows. And it all boils back, like most things, it boils back to television history. Because the style of American adult animation comes from the Flintstones. And the Flintstones essentially was an animated version of The Honeymooners, which was a sitcom. So the way that the Flintstones is structured, it's structured like a sitcom. Everything about the Flintstones is structured like a sitcom, from the camera angles to the way that the jokes are delivered, everything, which makes sense because the Flintstones was a Hanna-Barbera production in the 60s. And that was the time when production studios were still kind of trying to figure out how do you do animation for television, because animation is so expensive and takes such a long time to make. So what happened was Hanna-Barbera figured out a very quick and dirty way to make cartoons on the cheap and make a lot of them and make them very quickly. And this resulted in an emphasis on the writing and joke delivery more than the movement. And that is how we got the Flintstones. And then the thing about that is, with The Simpsons came out as like a direct response to sitcoms of the 1980s, where The Simpsons was kind of the anti-sitcom. The Simpsons came out as like an antithesis to all those feel-good, dad-knows-best sitcoms of the 80s and 70s, which were completely dominating the market. And The Simpsons came out as kind of a countercultural show that was like, no, we are not going to pretend as if American culture is this like dad knows best, oh, wise parents. The kids never have major problems. They just kind of have problems, or at the most they have friends who have problems. The kids themselves never have massive problems. And The Simpsons just came out and was like, no, bullshit, we're not doing any of this. We are going to give a more emphasized look at what the American culture is actually like. And that's why The Simpsons rattled a lot of like sensibilities at the time, because it was portraying things that were kind of not okay, because it was very critical of American society. And to do that, it had to mimic sitcom stylings. It had to mimic itself to make itself look like a sitcom. So once again, its style of humor was a little bit different than sitcoms because The Simpsons didn't have a laugh track. But for all intents and purposes, it has kind of the same sitcom trappings. And then Seth MacFarlane happened with Family Guy, and Seth MacFarlane has said that he actually wanted to do a reboot of the Flintstones, like an adult, modern reboot of the Flintstones, but that didn't happen. So Family Guy is kind of his response to that. So Family Guy has the exact same structure as like a sitcom, and that's why it is the way it is, and that's why these adult animated shows, they all fall within the same trappings because they're all just doing sitcoms or like anti-sitcoms. Anyway, that's a very long-winded way to describe it, but that's the problem with modern American cartoons. That's how we got here. There we go. Might not be my best drawing ever, but it's fine. I see somebody saying, "Hey, Andrea." That sounds like Married with Children. Yeah, it's kind of the same idea. I don't hate the word, but it's kind of like a deconstruction of the American sitcom, I suppose. I don't hate the word deconstruction. I just think it's used like in a way that doesn't mean what people think it means. But that's essentially what The Simpsons was originally, until it became it came as a criticism of the mainstream, and then it became the mainstream because that happens so often. It happened to Nirvana as well. But yeah, that's kind of why every single like American adult animated cartoon, that's kind of why they all go through the same motions. It's because for the past 60 years, for the past 60 years, that has been the formula of adult American cartoons, is to be... Oh, thank you, Evina. To be a criticism or a replica of a sitcom. Hey, Mr. Bender, thank you so much. Supuff knows her tunes. I feel like I'm stumbling over my words as I'm trying to formulate my thoughts and sentences. So I'm slightly all over the place, but I think you guys know what I mean by that. But like I said, that's a big problem of the American cartoon, is they don't want to stray too far from the formula, because in Hollywood, what Hollywood loves most of all is if you can sell a show by saying it's like this pre-existing thing meets this pre-existing thing. Like, that is how a lot of these people who greenlight shows want you to describe cartoons to them. Like to pitch your show, that's the way they want you to describe it to them. It's like this meets this. It's like X thing if it were Z thing. And so with adult animated cartoons, they have this preconceived idea of what an adult American cartoon is like. And so it's very difficult to kind of convince them to greenlight anything else, because they see things like, oh, Family Guy and The Simpsons and Bob's Burgers and all these other shows that come out that fall within these very, very rigid structures. And so they don't really want to stray too far from that, because a lot of these people are in their 50s or older. And so if you come with something new, they don't really know what to make of it, because they're a little out of touch, because they're too busy doing their jobs to keep up with like what the modern zeitgeist is. So again, it's this big, giant structural problem in the industry as a whole. And anime has this too, but in a different way. Anime has it like coming from the complete opposite direction. I was thinking about this while I was looking up some not concept art, some official art for a few of the older shows. I was thinking about the way that anime was written in the late 70s all the way up until the late 80s versus the way anime is written now, and the causes for that, because anime has the exact same problem, where anime as it exists now is so rigid with what it is, because it has this preconceived idea of what anime should or should not be. And so it's very difficult for anime to kind of break out of that. But anime has the extreme advantage where most often anime is based on manga that has already proven itself to be popular. Because manga is kind of like the testing grounds for anime series. Like, oh, if it's a manga and it's already successful, then there is a very good chance that the show will be successful because it kind of already has a built-in audience. But it has a similar problem where people are far less likely to take chances on things because they want a guaranteed profit, right? And I was thinking about this as I was looking specifically at Macross concept art, because I'm like, how does a show, or more specifically a movie, like Do You Remember Love happen? How does a movie like that happen? Like, how does that film come into existence? And the things that had to be in place for Do You Remember Love to exist simply could not be done today, because it would be too much of a risk. And part of that is because nobody expected Do You Remember Love to be as insanely huge as it was. Like, they had a sort of idea, but I don't think they realized it would still be like this landmark of anime. Almost, when did it come out? 1986? So yeah, almost 40 years later. 40 or 50, my maths is not that good. It's like this pre-existing thing meets this, explains stuff like how I got in spices. Well, yeah, no, that is how movies and shows get sold in Hollywood, and it's been that way for like decades now. There's a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune, where they specifically talk about this, because one of the big problems that Jodorowsky's Dune faced, aside from all the other insane problems it faced due to the fact that Jodorowsky, for as amazing a filmmaker as he is, he's kind of a crazy person. But one of the big problems is they could not sell Jodorowsky's Dune to a film distributor or a film studio because they could not sell it on the basis of, oh, it's like X meets Y. They could not describe it to the people who greenlight things because nothing like it had ever been made. And because of that, and like I said, some of the other reasons, that's a big part of why the movie just never saw the light of day. Amongst other things, like the fact that Jodorowsky wanted that movie to be 20 hours long. That might also have something to do with it. Oh yeah, totally. Anime has so many archetypes that don't exist in reality. The only reference beloved characters in other shows like tsunderes are massive today, started with Asuka. Yeah, it's things like that. And I'm not Japanese, obviously. So I can only speak from like the kind of observations I'm able to do, being unable to speak the language and stuff like that. So I'm reliant on translations of things that not a lot of people archive, right? Specifically like how anime was made back then. But anime back in the day was more built upon live action and theater and stand-up Japanese comedy, because stand-up Japanese comedy is very much its own thing because of the way the Japanese language is structured. You can't do stand-up the way it is in America. But it was based on those kinds of archetypes. So older anime is also based on archetypes, but the archetypes come from different places. Whereas in the modern day, a lot of anime is built upon other anime, which is kind of a problem because it kind of becomes this like cannibalizing effect, which is kind of what happened with Wish in a certain way. I don't know whether I ever say that in the video itself that Wish is Disney cannibalizing itself, but that's essentially what it is Disney eating itself and not pulling inspiration from anywhere else. It's so like locked into being Disney movie that it almost doesn't allow for any creative innovation because it can only rely on itself for inspiration, which is not good. That's not a good way to do anything creative, really. You need multiple influences from multiple places if you want to do anything creative. That's just the fact of life. You need interests outside of animation. You need interests outside of story writing to be able to write well. And that's also, I feel, a big problem with animation writers, and even like writers across the board in television especially, not so much in movies, but television especially, is a lot of these writers get hired straight out of college and they have like zero life experience and they don't really have much experience outside of film writing. And so they have very little that they can bring to the production in terms of writing itself. Whereas if you look at like a lot of the best writers in Hollywood, some of them did come out of college and stuff, but they tend to come from eclectic backgrounds or have eclectic tastes and interests. So they're not just eating from film itself to inspire further film. Oh, thank you. Thanks for the membership, Mr. Bender. Because even... Yeah, thank you. I think that was supposed to be Avina as well, but I don't know whether that tone has been set up yet. Is this also Will? Oh, you gifted 10 memberships. Sorry, I thought I saw the message and thought it was you renewing membership. Thank you so much, Mr. Bender. And say hi to all the new members. Hey guys. There are a few custom emotes. I think that we can unlock some more. Let me do this one. Hit this a bunch of times. So there are custom emotes you guys can use and such. Thanks, Mr. Bender. There we go. But yes, a lot of writers, this jingle is going to play for a few minutes. But a lot of these writers, they don't come from much experience outside of at college. And even if all you're basing your experiences and reference on is other film, you need to do more than just watch like the mainstream film. And that's often my criticism with these people who make cartoons and like openly state that it's inspired by like Sailor Moon or other magical girls, because I'm like, okay, well, that's all well and good, but you can't only have watched Sailor Moon to make this. You need to have a wider palette when it comes to film as a whole to be able to make something. You can't just do the exact same thing, right? Because then you're not bringing any kind of experience to the table. Anyway, like I said, I'm rambling here, but I think you guys understand what I mean. Went on a big, long of rambling tangent regarding this absolute state of Hollywood. There we go. That fire emote is a good one. Yeah. I think that one's my favorite, actually. It's this one. That is often how I feel when discussing these things. Bring noise makes Seepup anxious. Films coming out that I'm looking forward to. Honestly, it's a very basic answer, but I'm genuinely looking forward to Wicked Part 2. I was a major fan of the musical, and I was very happy with the film adaptation. I think they absolutely nailed it. And as a result, I'm now excited for Part 2. So that's going to be very cool. And it's going to be fun watching people react to it who haven't seen the play and have like no idea of what they're in for. I'm rambling, confused look. That's why we're here. I mean, okay, fair. Good point. Fair point. Oh, that reminds me, and don't ask me how it reminds me, but we are having load shedding again. They literally told me like today that we're getting load shedding. There was no like announcement about it, but my guess is we're getting very bad floods here, like really, really bad flooding. So I assume that the water has done damage to the grid. So my power is going to go off at 2 a.m. today. So I just have to be done with the stream before 2 a.m. Which there's a very low chance of me ever going that long. But just so that we're all aware. Seepuff, you need to make a series where you just ramble on topic. You mean my live streams? You mean this literal thing that I'm doing right now? No, but in seriousness, that's why I switched to a script format. For a while, I tried to do videos without scripting because I always felt like when I'm reading off a script, I sound like I'm reading a bedtime story. Like there's not much dynamicism to my way of expressing myself because I'm not a good actor, right? I'm not an actor by any stretch of the imagination, but I get so scatterbrained that it very quickly became clear that no, I do need a script even if I sound like I'm reading a bedtime story because it just kind of keeps me more structured. Whereas live stream, I'm like talking off the top of my head and I'm like stuttering and trying to remember what the hell I'm talking about. What exactly is load shedding? Our power, I think the Americans call it a rolling blackout, where they turn our power off for like 2 hours at a time to relieve stress on the power grid. And like I said, I'm pretty sure it's because of the heavy flooding we've been experiencing. Because otherwise there would have been like some kind of warning. If it was more planned, they would have told us, by the way, we're having load shedding this weekend. But there was none of that. It just suddenly, I got a message on my phone saying, by the way, your power's going off at 2 a.m. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I assume it's because of the flooding. So there's an awful superhero cartoon called Miraculous Ladybug. Have you seen any of it? The main character is legit a stalker. Me bursting out laughing probably tells you I have indeed heard of Miraculous Ladybug. That's a giant mess of its own, isn't it? Because I heard like the creator of Miraculous Ladybug, like he himself, he's like the French version of Vivzy Pop. That's the kind of impression that I got. Like if you criticize the main character, he'll like come out of the woodwork on Twitter or Blue Sky and just like go off on your tweet about how wrong you are about criticizing his show. Like apparently he does that a lot. So oh, people are saying, oh no, is my stream dying? No, my stream is healthy. Okay, good. Don't scare me. But yeah, that's what I heard about Miraculous Ladybug, is that there's a big problem with the creator.
I've received a new message.
Oh, thank you, Avina. Oh, hey, Ultimate Tiebreaker, I believe that is. It's not showing your full name, but I believe that's what it is. Thanks for the super chat. Thank you so much. I like to use your supercuts and live streams as background noise when I do menial tasks. I would honestly put on a video of you reading the phone book. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. At least I'm more coherent in my videos for the most part. But thanks, that's very kind. But yeah, when it comes to Miraculous Ladybug, I heard that's a big problem because the creator has a big case of like writer's pet with the main character. Like he cannot handle people criticizing his Mary Sue or his OC. I'm not even sure if you would classify the main character as a Mary Sue. I tend to dislike the word Mary Sue itself, but not for any like moral reasons. I feel like it's a bit of a conversation killer, where if you call something a Mary Sue, you kind of just assume people know what you mean, and then you don't clarify yourself, and that your audience might not be on the same page as you. Like they might have a completely different idea of what classifies as a Mary Sue. So it's better to just explain what you mean rather than rely on words like Mary Sue. That's also why I often make fun of woke content in my videos, is because the concept of woke content means completely different things depending on who you speak to. Like one person's definition of what woke content is completely different to another person's definition of it. So it doesn't help if you just say, oh, this is woke content, because that doesn't clarify as to what you're talking about. Because your audience would have a completely different interpretation of what classifies or what woke content even is. And I might need another sip from my water, and hopefully this time I don't choke, but should be fine. Mary Sue is a vague term. It's not very useful. Yeah, exactly. It's too ambiguous because people will say, oh, that's a Mary Sue. And the character would literally just be like a female character that is very powerful. And they're like, oh, it's a Mary Sue. But then you have other people who will use that term like as a legitimate criticism. Rey from Star Wars, and I know Star Wars, but Rey from Star Wars comes to mind. Like, the argument on whether she is or is not a Mary Sue is exhausting. Like, it's genuinely exhausting. I don't know whether I would even classify Rey as Mary Sue, because my biggest problem with Rey is that she's boring. She is incredibly uninteresting, which isn't really a trait indicative of a Mary Sue. But there are other people who will say, oh, she's a Mary Sue because she picks up a lightsaber and she can just use it out of nowhere despite no training, blah, blah, blah. She's related to like a major character, which, to be fair, that is like a textbook Mary Sue thing. There was like a fanfic in the very early 2000s, which was quite notorious, where the main character was like the daughter of Sephiroth. So Rey from Star Wars being like the daughter of Palpatine, that is like the most fanfic thing I've ever heard in my life. But again, just saying, oh, Rey is Mary Sue is not super helpful because you're not really clarifying what that means. And you also run the risk of turning away audience members who might actually agree with you because they think you're using the term Mary Sue as like a criticism at female characters in general. Where it's like, no, I don't use that as a criticism of female characters in general. I mean that there are basic, fundamental story writing problems with the main character. And then people start getting into the argument of like, oh, well, what is a Mary Sue? Is Indiana Jones technically a Mary Sue? You know, they start like moving the goalposts and they start like deconstructing what is a Mary Sue. What does the word Mary Sue mean? And it's like, dude. So it just saves a lot of headache to just kind of define what you mean rather than rely on certain terms and words. But my point is, from what I have heard of Miraculous Ladybug, it does not inspire much confidence in me. However, I did hear, apparently there was a movie that came out quite recently and it was quite well received. And a lot of people joked, well, that's because the main creator had nothing to do with the movie. That's why that movie is relatively good. Okay, Leon actually has fur on the bottom of his jacket as well. Hold on. Oh, this is the wrong eraser. Here we go. Is C-Puff person a Mary Sue? Exactly. It's like, aren't we all Mary Sues deep down? Like that whole discussion. And it's like, ugh. It's like you are purposefully just trying to be pedantic so that you can derail the discussion. That's like actually what you're doing. Oh, it reminds me of, I can't remember what episode of EFAP it is. It was an episode where Jay was one of the hosts. So it was Mauler, Rags, and Jay. And somebody in the comments made fun of them where it's like, Mauler, I don't know, I could be wrong about that. Rags, I'm never wrong. Jay, what is wrong? Like, it just devolves into that discussion. It's like, no, I'd rather just explain what I mean. So, in the Magnifico video where I joked about woke content and that I'm not criticizing woke content, I am just disgusted with the way that Disney will use people as a shield. And I had some people comment saying, yeah, that's woke content. And I'm like, yeah, it's woke content for you, but another person defines woke content through entirely different means. So the kind of woke content I'm making fun of is not the kind of woke content that you define as woke content. Like the kind of woke content I'm making fun of is people who have like a complete meltdown because a character creator lets you assign gender and like the way that the character looks independently. Like Pokemon. does that. I think Pokemon does this thing now where it no longer says boy or girl. It says, what is your style? And like people who like have a meltdown about that and like, oh, this is woke content. Like that's kind of how I see the word woke content. But then other people see woke content as being like the legit criticism that I was complaining about, which is Disney using people as a shield to be like, look at how progressive we are. Meanwhile, they're not paying their employees a working wage. So again, it boils down to semantics. Oh, sorry, I need to go back to this music because I didn't put it on loop. It boils down to semantics because one person's definition of the word is completely different to another person's definition of the word, and it just becomes confusing, and then nobody knows what we're talking about, what we're criticizing anymore. Does his jacket have any like detailing on it? Not really. I mean, he's got like his pockets here, but it's basically just a sheepskin jacket. At least I think it's sheepskin. This doesn't look like sheepskin. Yeah, what is this? It's not sheepskin. What is that? Anyway, some or other kind of fluff. Who knows? Pokemon still does boy or girl thing. You're thinking something like Animal Crossing. Oh, okay, yes. I just have this like memory because I've been watching Radical Soda. I'm really enjoying his videos on Scarlet and Violet. And I remember he mentioned that or something. I can't remember, but I think that's where I'm getting it from because I've watched a lot more Pokemon content than I've watched Animal Crossing content. Style 1 or Style 2? Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, I have no problem with that. But yeah, some people see that as like a legit problem. And other people are like, you know, it's fine. And then we just get confused as to what we're actually criticizing. I should sketch in where to put these things so I'm not just slapping it on randomly, but I'm actually not really in the mood to put in the effort. There we go. Good enough. And he has like, yeah, he's got like these things as well. Luckily, this arm just kind of pieces off into nothing, so I don't need to worry about it there. To be fair, I hate the word woke because I like never know what it means or what people mean. Yeah, exactly. It's confusing and it's too ambiguous a term. Like I said, same with Mary Sue. I kind of went again on a massive ramble here, but to get back to Miraculous Ladybug, that's also a difficult show because I feel like, is that a show where you need to have been in the fandom for a long time to be able to criticize it properly? Because what I like to do is I like to come into things with kind of the outsider perspective. That's what I did with, I want to say My Adventures with Superman, although I do have some opinions and preferences when it comes to DC, but I mean, like, I wasn't a massive comic fan or anything. So I kind of gave an outsider's perspective on that. And same with High Guardian Spice. I wasn't necessarily looking at it from the point of like, oh, woke content or more representation or whatever. I was just looking at it as like, well, is the show actually good? Because nobody was talking about whether the show itself was good or not. They were just like, oh, blah, 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 the message, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, but is the show good? You're not telling me if the show is good. So that's why I made that video. So with A Miraculous Ladybug, I don't know whether that's something that would benefit from a fresh perspective or if that's best left to people who like really know what they're talking about regarding that show. Just because there's so much going on behind the scenes with the guy who makes the show and all of that. Like there's so much. It reminds me a little bit of Ruby. Like I don't know whether I would ever cover Ruby just because I feel Ruby is such a train wreck. You kind of need somebody who really understands Ruby from the ground up to make a proper video onto everything wrong with that show. I like Pokemon Scarlet, but I'd like it a whole lot more if it wasn't clear the creators were being severely rushed. Yeah, because that's the main problem. And it's frustrating because I genuinely think that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has genuinely an interesting story. Like, I think the plot of those games, once you get like past all the nonsense, like the plot is really interesting. And I think the simple act, spoilers if you care about this sort of thing, the simple act of making the Pokemon professor that you meet at the start of a game the bad guy, that is like phenomenal. That is such big brain thinking. And that the way that they did it is really interesting. And it's really frustrating because then the game is like that. That's what the game is like. And it's like, ah. There you go. I was watching Ruby since the Raid trailer came out and was invested in Rooster Teeth. I love the show and acknowledge its big flaws. Hey, Arid Conrad. Cohen. Jeez, why can't I talk today? Arid Cohen. There we go. So many movies and games that come out decades ago would get people whining they're too woke if they came out now. It's funny you say that. There was a tweet that went viral where somebody was complaining about woke content in Jurassic Park, where they're like, oh, just wait. Next, you know, all the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are going to be trans because woke. And somebody was like, is anybody going to tell him? Is anybody going to tell him about the first movie? But yeah, I was thinking about that because, again, I'm still toying with the idea of discussing the historical accuracy of the road to El Dorado. I'm just trying to like find a good angle to tackle the video from, because it's all well and good to just sit and ramble about why the road to El Dorado is as good as it is, but I feel I need a thesis statement to structure the video around. And one thing I thought I could mention is how the road to El Dorado is so insanely accurate to Mesoamerican culture, specifically the Mayans, but there's a little bit of influence from like the Aztecs in there as well as the Incas, but mainly the Aztecs and the Maya. That movie is so insanely historically accurate, but at no point does the movie ever feel like it's self-congratulatory about being accurate to the culture, if you know what I mean. Like, it's never patting itself on the back for being representation or being accurate or like representing a culture. And I thought about contrasting that to Coco, because Coco is a good movie. Coco is a good movie. There is no way I can argue that it's not, and I don't want to, because Coco is a good movie. But I do feel that Coco is a little bit self-congratulatory in how it represents Mexican culture in a way that feels inauthentic. Like it's like everything that is inherently Mexican about Coco, it like stops to make sure you are aware that it has referenced this thing that is authentic to Mexican culture. Like, it's very deliberate in like, this isn't a Mexican culture thing. Did you see that we did the Mexican culture thing? Whereas The Road to El Dorado was made way before that kind of thing was even a talking point. So it's this extremely accurate to Mesoamerican culture movie, but it never stops to like acknowledge it. It's just like super accurate for no reason. It's like this shockingly accurate movie. And it's just like that. They did not have to put as much effort into it as they did. But they went to Yucatan for like on-site research and sketching. They like hired a anthropologist that specializes in Mesoamerican culture just to make sure they got the architecture correct. Like, there's all of this stuff in the movie. And the movie never stops to point any of it out. Because it's not concerned with talking about that. It's concerned about being a movie. So it's fascinating. It's really, really, really interesting. My big problem with Road to El Dorado making that video is that the movie flopped when it came out. So as a result, I can't see that it had any kind of art book release. The behind the scenes footage spends all of 3 minutes about the trip to Yucatan, and the rest of the time it's just talking about Elton John and the voice actors. Like, that's what its main focus is. So I am struggling to find like first-hand sources, or what's the word you call that for? Like first by like authentic sources from the people themselves, because there just doesn't seem to be any real documentation for it. So I'm considering emailing the anthropologist who was the consultant on the movie, because I have his email. I managed to track it down. But I'm trying to think how I can structure my email so that it's clear what I am asking from him. Because it doesn't help that I just email the guy and I'm like, hey, you worked on this movie, right? Like 25 years ago. Can you like tell me about the research you guys did? Because I want to make like a video about it. But then I don't really know like what the topic of my video is. I don't really know the angle I want to go in, any of that. Like that's not a useful email to send somebody. You're trying a primary source. That's the word. Thank you, Watchface. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. I saw a really interesting video essay about the entire concept of border control at Land of the Dead. Because, like, yeah, that was a weird choice. Oh, yes, I saw the video too. That video is really good. The video that talks about, like, the very strange decision in Coco to have the Land of the Dead have, like, a border control. And it's like, are you sure this is the angle we want to go with this? Is this really the angle we want to go? Pixar, is this, y'all good? Y'all sure? And that video is very interesting because the video essayist himself is Arabic, and he talks about like his personal experiences with traveling to like Europe and stuff, like the way that airports treat him as a tourist who is very obviously Arabic. It's a fascinating video, and as somebody from South Africa, it made me furious because I've experienced a lot of the same things when I travel. And I mean, like, I'm Caucasian, and I still receive a lot of side eye because of where my passport is from. So it's an extremely frustrating video essay, but it's fascinating. It's really, really interesting. And it's frustrating because Coco is a good movie. Again, Coco is a very good movie. So it almost makes it more frustrating. It's like, yeah, but why? Why did you make this choice, Pixar? Who are we drawing? We're drawing Leon to the best of my ability. Despite me using my gaming laptop, despite me streaming at a different time, we still had a stream crash, which says to me the connection problems is not my laptop, it's something to do with my internet itself. So I'm a little bit flustered because I don't like having tech issues. So I'm drawing Leon to the best of my ability while I'm rambling about the road to El Dorado. Who is side-eyeing you see puff? Name them! No, it's just general border control stuff where they like see your passport and then you get like selected for a random search. It's amazing. Every single time I've traveled to the States, every single time I seem to be picked for a random search. It's so weird. I've never gone to the States and not been the one selected for a random search. Huh. Like, it's that kind of nonsense. It's kind of funny. It's especially funny in my case because, like, they'll see my passport and then they'll see me standing in front of them and I'm like just a normal ass white woman and they're like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, you're gonna say something? You're gonna reveal your prejudice? Anyway, that's like an entire topic on its own, very messy topic. But the video about Coco regarding that is extremely interesting because he talks about like the very strange decision for Coco, being a movie that's trying to represent Mexican culture and be super respectful of it, making the choice of making the Land of the Dead be controlled by border control, and the fact that at the end of the movie of Coco, that's never addressed. The only thing that changes is that the main characters are now okay. Like, the border control remains in place. It's a problem that kind of never gets resolved. And it's just like, it's okay because he can go through it now. And it's like, okay. Yay, I suppose. Oh my god, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white. I use that quote so much, because I have legit had people like ask that of me. They're like, oh, you're from Africa, right? And Mean Girls has done me a great good in my life, because whenever I'm in that very awkward situation, I can just quote Mean Girls, and then people like giggle and laugh, and then we just kind of move past it. So Mean Girls has done me a massive world of good. Hey, Indigotcha. I got pulled to the side at an airport once, had a phone charger next to a container of protein powder. So they just saw a wire next to powder. Yeah, I got pulled aside once because I had like a bottle of perfume in my luggage and it looked like a grenade. That was like in the 90s, where I was traveling as a child with family. I have to be careful with like my word usage because I don't want YouTube to like flag this video. But yeah, crazy nonsense. But yes, I've actually thought about linking that video regarding Coco just because it's a really, really good video. But I do notice that I don't really get traction on my community posts when I recommend other videos. So I never know whether I'm just like annoying people or not. Like, people don't really care about me recommending other videos. What was the Starboy demo song in your Wish video? That was the demo version of At All Costs, which was uploaded to the exact Disney YouTube channel. Like, I didn't find that on some rare esoteric channel. It was uploaded to the Disney Music channel. That's where I found it. So that's another reason why I didn't understand why they were like, oh, we wrote this for Magnifico because we thought it would be very interesting to have a duet between the hero and villain. And I'm like, you're just lying. And you're lying about something that is so easily disprovable. Why? What's the point of lying about it? Like, there's no point in like saying these things. I don't understand. Like it's just why? Because lying about it just makes you look worse. If you had just like come out and say, oh yes, it was meant originally for a love duet, but after we restructured the movie, it no longer fit with the plot that we had. So we rewrote it so that it would better fit the characters and plot that we currently have. Like, just say that. Like, just say that. Nobody is going to get angry if you say that. And it's just very strange to me that Disney is completely unwilling to say things like that in the making of. Because I was watching the making of The Lion King. And there's a point where they're talking about the early production of The Lion King, where they were still trying to figure out what the movie was. And they said, we kind of just had this idea of lions in Africa. And we had these visuals of lions in Africa, and we wanted to do an animated movie about lions in Africa, but we didn't really have a plot yet. So then we started toying around with the idea of Hamlet as lions in Africa and kind of doing like a Shakespearean story. And then in the making of, it cuts to Chris Sanders. And Chris Sanders was like, he openly says in the making of, and then they pitched this idea to me, and I was like, wow, that sounds terrible. We're not really going to make a movie like that, are we? And he can just openly say that in the making of, because this making of was made in the 90s, and Disney didn't have this like confidence problem. Like, you could just say and joke about the production of the films because Disney wasn't going to come and tell you to shut up because they don't want people to know that sometimes productions are difficult. It's very weird. Like, I don't understand. Especially because then they release things like the making of Frozen 2, specifically to point out how difficult the production of that movie was. And like I don't get it. I honestly don't understand. And I think the reason I don't understand is because it's lying. And I just don't see myself as ever being the kind of person that would lie for like no reason. Like, why lie about that? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, I don't see the point in turning that into a lie. I don't see the reason. This is probably why I'm on the creative side of things and not the marketing side of things. But anyway. Very, very strange. Very, very strange. Why is Monster Slippery saying, oh, my stream is still healthy? Oh, no, there it is. Okay, I see. There we go. Got poor. Stream is buffering. Yeah. Let's give it a sec. See if it recovers. I'll grab a drink of water in the meantime. They don't want to look stupid, so they lie. I guess, yes, but lying makes them look even stupider. Like, they look worse, because if you lie, not only do you look stupid, you also look untruthful. You look like you can't be trusted. So, not only are you looking stupid, you're also looking untrustworthy. You're looking like a liar. It's the only way I can really think about it. So, like, why not tell the truth? Because if you have to look stupid anyway, at least you can look honest. People will respect you a lot more if you are just open and honest with some of the hardships. There we go, back to excellent. Okay, we're back. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And the only thing I can think of is it comes down to a lack of confidence. Which is insane because you're Disney. Like, how much more confidence do you need? And I know we can make the jokes about like, oh, but Disney hasn't been doing so well, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, if you have a pedigree in your company, like the way that Disney does, even if you are not doing well at the moment, you still have to carry yourself as if you are the pedigree that you are. You have to live up to the class that people expect of you. And when you behave in these ways, it just reflects badly on your company. It doesn't matter what the reality is of like your income and your profits and all of that. That doesn't matter so much as the way you present yourself. This is all very basic, right? I don't understand why it's so difficult to like grasp as a concept. Is anybody gonna see Snow White with Rachel Zegler next month? No, but it does make me wonder. You know what I could do? I don't know whether I will, because I think Velma is going to eat up a lot of my time. But it does make me wonder if I could make a video that like uses the live action Snow White as a springboard to talk about the original Snow White. Because like the production behind the original Snow White and like what went into making it and all of that. And like specifically the animation industry side of it. That might be really interesting to talk about because it's exactly the kind of thing I like talking about. I really enjoy talking about Walt Disney history, specifically because I like history. I really enjoy history. It's a topic across the board I'm very, very interested in. And talking about animation history, especially as it relates to Walt Disney, is very interesting to me because it was the 1930s and stuff. It was a very interesting period of time. So I just think there's like a really good topic that you can talk about there. It will be a very sad video because I would like have to compare the absolute triumph that is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to like the walking corpse that is the live action remake, because let's face it, the movie hasn't come out yet, but we all know it's not going to be good. It's not going to be a good movie. It's like one of those movies where you can smell the blood in the water already. And I think the fact that they're releasing it in March says a lot regarding their confidence of it. Like the fact that they're putting it out in March does not bode well for how... Oh, he actually wears gloves. Oh well. It says a lot about how Disney as a company is expecting the movie to do. Releasing it in March is not entirely a death sentence. It's not as bad as releasing a movie in January, but releasing it in March is a very tactical move because the reason you release a movie in March is because there are no other blockbusters for it to compete against. So the movie has no massive competitors, which means it will do a lot better than if you had released it in June or July. So that's does not bode well for the movie, like, at all. Why is her skirt like that? That could almost be like the title of a video. It's just, you have the thumbnail and it's just the live action Snow White, and you just have the title be, why is her skirt like that? I included a clip in my Magnifico video. There is a historic seamstress on YouTube who talks about like historic costume design and fashion, and she made a video about the quote-unquote historically accurate Disney outfits that a lot of fan artists do, and just how bad they are, because they are not historically accurate at all. Like, they're really just not good. So I would think for something like, why is her dress like that? That's something that a channel like that could really do well talking about. I think that's a bit above my information level. I don't know. Like, it's not a topic that I have much information about. Because again, the Road to El Dorado video, I also don't have a lot of information about Mesoamerica and like South American history. I know like the barest of basics regarding it, but I can at least do research. I feel a lot more confident doing research about historical facts than I would talking about the fashion industry, which you need to like understand fashion. It's not enough to like know fashion. You need to like understand it, which I don't think I understand fashion enough. But why is her skirt like that? The trailer for Snow White has over 1 million dislikes. Yeah, I was shocked. I actually thought the like and dislikes were turned off when I saw it, because I have an extension that shows me the like and dislikes before you click on a video, because I don't like wasting my time. So the Snow White trailer came past, and I actually thought they turned off the like and dislikes because it was just like a red bar, which is what the extension shows when it's turned off. And then I saw, no, that's legit the dislike counter, and I was like, uh-oh, that's very bad. Are you talking about Carolina Zabrowski? Yes. Yes, I believe that's so. She's a Polish creator, if I remember correctly. I was sad I couldn't use more of her, like a clip of her pointing out the historical inaccuracies about historically accurate Disney princess fan art. But the way that the sentence was flowing, and I didn't want to spend too much time on the topic, all I could really do was very quickly put the clip where she's just like yelling in text about like a Watch Mojo video talking about like, oh, this is so accurate, and it just has her text on the screen in like capital letters in bold, and it's like, is it? So very, very good creator. Highly recommend her. We're still going? Great. I just got back from lunch at a Mexican place. Nice. But yeah, I keep talking about the El Dorado video. I think it's because with Velma, right? With Velma, all I really need to do, which is a tall order, but all I really need to do is I need to sit down, watch the show, and then formulate a response, I suppose, as to what the show is like. Like Velma, it's more like me watching and giving an opinion based on my own knowledge and experience as an animator and cleanup artist and all of that. But the Road to El Dorado video, I would like actually have to do some modicum of research. Which is why it's like on the back burner in my mind rather than being like the sole focus, because I can gather research and things like that even while I'm working on other videos. That's also why I'm talking about it so much. I'm gonna need a bigger brush than that. Because I felt like, I don't know if it'll be helpful, but I want to watch A City of Z. And I actually have a book called Jungles of Stone, which is about the initial discovery of, I think, Tikal. And there is a documentary on YouTube from 1918, which was filmed around the time that the events of World War Z was happening. So I have all these like very, very interesting things that I'm very like interested in digging into and learning about. And it just sounds so much more fulfilling than like Velma. But Velma's going to be painful to watch, but it's not going to be painful to write or talk about, because as always, talking about horrible cartoons is just a covert way for me to talk about cartoons I actually like. Like, it's just a stealth way of talking about things I enjoy, because I get to make comparisons. That's why I make comparisons. Because, like, okay, we're going to talk about this thing I actually like for a while. And it is entertaining. Like it's just entertaining to yell about things. So Velma's not going to be painful to write. It's just going to be painful to watch. That's like the only part that I'm like, ugh. It's not going to be much fun. It's having to sit down and watch the thing. And I'm considering whether I should rewatch my review for season 1, because I can't really remember what the hell happened in season 1 of Velma. I can, but also not, because it's
received a new
oh,
message.
thank you, Avina. It's such a pile of nonsense. Indigo, thank you so much. Unfortunately, I stumbled across the video game equivalent of Velma. Is writing getting worse? Is spite getting common? I think it ties into what I was saying before. Where... What is this gray thing? What is... Oh, I see. Where writers get hired straight out of college, and they get put into these positions way above their skill level, and it just keeps happening again and again and again. And because a lot of this is coming directly out of Los Angeles itself, it feels like a localized problem. It just happens that a lot of this localized problem is coming from the exact same place, and that's why it seems so magnified. But as I've said in streams before, what does make it interesting is, whereas so many of these things are stumbling, it's giving a little bit of room for international films and TV shows to become more popular, because the audience is not going to wait around until you get good again. The audience is going to find something that entertains them, even as you're floundering. And if you're not keeping their attention, they're going to find something else to watch. And as a result, a lot of international projects are getting attention and views that they would not have gotten otherwise. And the other thing that's happening is a lot of older shows and movies are getting attention, because people would rather watch older things than watch newer things. And that makes me very happy, because I am a big lover of older films. Like, I really, really, really enjoy them, and I wish that they were more watched than they are, because I think it's a great disservice to kind of just write them off as like, oh, they're old, therefore they don't have any value anymore. And I'm like, okay, but have you watched them? What game? Was it Concord? Inescapable. I haven't heard of that one. Apparently Dustborn, I think it was. Apparently that game is horrific. Like, I saw the reviews on the like score on Steam, and it was horrific. And I was like, I heard about this game. What is it that's wrong? Why is it getting this amount of backlash? And then I saw a review on Steam that just perfectly summed it up, where all they did was like list things that are in the game, where like one of the things that you can do in the game is use cancel to like silence the enemies. And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. I see what kind of game this is. All right, noted. And then I just never, like, I'm like, okay, writing that one off and not thinking about it again. But as usual, I would be very happy to find like a video essay tearing it apart, because that's the other thing. I really enjoy talking about terrible things, and that is because I also enjoy watching other people talk about terrible things. And I think I've mentioned this before. That's not even like a recent development. I not grew up, but I mean, I started watching Mystery Science Theater at the age of like 16 or something, as soon as my dial-up internet gave me the ability to download episodes. So this like interest in just absolute trash has been like a very, very long standing thing with me. It's something I find like honest enjoyment out of. And like most people, I mean, there's a certain kind of joy in a terrible movie, right? Sometimes a movie that is terrible can actually be good just because of how bad it is. I mean, that's how these channels like Red Letter Media and such exist, right? And I really like Red Letter Media. I'm a big fan of theirs. Really enjoy their content. If Dustborn was made by someone who wanted to parody the extreme left Twitter bubble, it would be the exact same game. Yeah, that's the impression I got. Like, it sounds like the kind of game that would be written by Twitter.
You have received a new message.
Thank you, Avina. Mr. Bender, thank you again. Have I ever seen the movie Gremlins? Absolutely, I have. I really like Gremlins. I actually like the second Gremlins more than the first Gremlins. I don't know whether that's like a hot take or not. The first Gremlins is very, very good. But then I watched Gremlins 2 not that long ago, and that movie might as well have been tailor-made for me. Like, that movie is exactly my kind of humor. It is exactly like the kind of comedy I like. And it was one of those movies I was angry nobody had made me watch it sooner. It's like one of those where I'm like, why did nobody tell me about this? This movie's amazing. Also, I think I might like Joe Dante. I say that because I'm not entirely sure if I have watched like his films with the intent of seeing them as made by Joe Dante. But I really like Gremlins. I actually really like Small Soldiers. I know that's like not considered the greatest movie in the world, but I genuinely like that movie. I haven't watched it in a very long time, but I remember being quite a fan of it. Maybe it's just because it's like Toy Story, but gritty. Maybe that's what the appeal is for me. Would this be at the top or the bottom? No, I think it's at the top. Yes. Oh, and we need to add some color to his hands because otherwise he looks way too pale. And knowing CPUF, I'm not surprised she likes Gremlins 2 more than the first. Yeah, it's very on brand. Like, it's not even shocking. It's like if you've seen it, you're like, yep, yeah, that checks. That makes sense. Small Soldiers, my childhood. Yeah! Like, I understand what the problems of the movie are, but I still like it because I think I like the idea of that movie. Like, I enjoy the idea of what that movie is. And the fact that it's just kind of a little unhinged. I mean, that appeals to me too. And then the other thing is, Joe Dante, he also did Looney Tunes Back in Action. And I didn't know that for the longest time. And when that came out, and I was like a teenager at the time, I was like obsessed with that movie for a short while. I really like that film. I don't know if I'll still like it, but there's a lot of it, like even the jokes. I would watch a clip now and then, I'm like, this is still really funny to me. Like, I genuinely think this is hilarious. So that's another Joe Dante movie. So it's like one of those, I might have to start looking into this man's filmography. Because everything I've watched from him that I know is of him, I've enjoyed. It's like Ikuhara, where after a while I realized like almost all of my favorite anime are made by Ikuhara. And it's like, oh, okay. What time is it? Okay, it's only 11, that's fine. I'm just checking the time because as I said, my electricity is going to go out at 2 o'clock, but it's far from 2 o'clock in the morning, so that's fine. And I want to give his jacket and just like the, whatever this is, I want to say sheepskin. It's not sheepskin. I don't know what it is, but I want to give this some texture. And then I'll throw some color on his line work as well. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let me just kind of do some of this. Do this. Gremlins 2 is such a Looney Tunes movie. Yeah, well, it makes sense, right? Because then he did Looney Tunes Back in Action. There we go, that's better. The other thing that I was thinking, I'm not going to do it, so don't get too excited, but I was thinking for a short while of doing a video on Once Upon a Studio, just because there are so many Easter eggs in that thing that I don't know whether people would recognize it, just like as a layman. Because I know, like, Watch Mojo, they did like every reference in Once Upon a Studio. They did like things like that. But there are things in Once Upon a Studio which I don't know if people who are just like laymen would notice immediately. There's things like Feed the Birds that plays over the portrait of Walt. Like, it shows Walt Disney's portrait, and you can hear a piano version of Feed the Birds from Mary Poppins. And it's not just that's Walt's favorite piece of music that the studio has ever done. It's also that recording of the piano version of Feed the Birds is actually a recording of one of the Sherman brothers himself playing that song, and that was recorded in Walt's office on the piano that's located in Walt's office. Like things like that. There's a lot of little things in Once Upon a Studio that is just like not noticeable unless you're like a massive nerd. Like when the genie pops up, apparently the character that flies past in the background is a reference to a promotional video that Robin Williams did in the 90s, very shortly after Aladdin, like introducing people to Disneyland, like a new attraction at Disneyland. And during that promo, Robin Williams has like his own little Lost Boy character. And in Once Upon a Studio, there's like a little character that flies by in the background when the genie pops out. And that's what that character is. Like, the amount of detail in Once Upon a Studio is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it is insanity how much love and attention was put into that thing. However, I'm not going to do it because even as I was thinking about it and rewatching it, I became so overwhelmed of how many things I would have to mention and how much information I would have to put together and how much I would have to explain and how much I would have to say. I completely overwhelmed myself before I even got started. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a project that is a little bit too ambitious for how much time and effort it's going to take. It might be something one can do in the future at some point in time, but for right now, it's just too big a project for me to try and tackle, because it's going to eat up literally all of my time, and the video itself is just going to be astronomical in length. It's just going to be way too big. So I kind of shelved that idea, but I do want to say that everybody should go watch Once Upon a Studio. It's legit one of the best things I've seen in a very long time. Robin Williams was a true legend, man. A rip, oh captain, my captain. Yeah, Robin Williams, man. I mean, what was I was looking in Letterboxd, and it was some or other thing with, I don't know if Robin Williams was in it or if it was about Robin Williams, but somebody in the review said, I don't think I've missed a single celebrity as much as I've missed Robin Williams. And I think that just kind of speaks for all of us. I think we all are in agreement with that. All right, gotta hop off. Time for a run. Have yourselves a damn good one. Take care. Take care, da boy. I hope you have a good run. I should start doing that a lot more than I am myself, because I am one of those people where my job requires me to sit at a desk, and my hobbies also have me sitting at a desk, and that's not a good thing. And plenty of YouTubers have tried so far. All of them have had to admit it's a lot. Oh, are we talking... funny how having love for the characters will make an audience happy. Yeah. But Adam, are you talking about like the project of Once Upon a Studio? Because yeah, there's so much going on in that short. Watch Mojo, I saw they did do a video. I haven't watched it, but I am willing to bet that a lot of it is just, this character is from this. This character is from this. Because it's Watch Mojo, and it's just because of like the fact that they have to pump out an insane amount of videos per day or per week or whatever. So the quality of their content just kind of isn't really there, because they just have to do so much content all the time that there isn't really room to say anything meaningful. It's just kind of like making a list. That's the impression I get. I haven't watched it, but I've watched a lot of Watch Mojo in the past, and it's like, oh yeah, I see the formula. I get it. And maybe find someone to help collab. I don't know, because again, I like doing the research. I just kind of get overwhelmed because I know I don't shut up in my videos. The reason that my videos are the lengths that they are is mostly because I don't know how to shut up. It's not because I'm trying to be like long form content. It's not that I'm purposefully trying to have like hours upon hours of content. It's literally because I don't shut up. And even when it comes to editing, a lot of my thoughts build upon each other. So I can't really edit out a certain part of the video because it leads into the next part of the video. Like on the Magnifico video, I very seriously considered completely editing out the entire section where I talked about the Prince of Egypt. Because I was like, I talk about the Prince of Egypt for a relatively long period of time in this video. And it's kind of just to make a singular point about how it's entirely possible to write a tragedy in a mainstream animated movie. And I'm spending so much time simply because I have to explain the depth of the tragedy in the Prince of Egypt. So I did edit it out at first, but it kind of then broke the rest of the video because it left me without a solid end point. It left me kind of high and dry as to where I was going to take the topic beyond that. So I left it in, and that's also a big contributor for why the video is as long as it is, because I was just like, I can't edit this out because then the video kind of becomes lesser for it. And then the part where I talk about Magnifico himself, I think it ends up being only a few minutes long, and it kind of undermines my point that you can absolutely tell the kind of story that Disney wanted to tell, where it's like a really tragic fall from grace character. Just to kind of illustrate, they don't really have an excuse for chickening out and not going the route that they said they wanted to go in. Prince of Egypt always deserves a ton of spotlight though. Yeah, it's true. But again, it just kind of shows like why my videos are as long and rambling as they are. It's because A, I don't know how to shut up, and B, when I try and edit out the parts where I don't shut up, the video becomes lesser for it because everything is kind of connected to itself. What? Oh, I should probably do his upper lip here as well. There we go. What else? Do I want to do his hair? I think his hair might be fine as it is. Turn this off. I suppose I can put some shine on the gun just to kind of... the really badly traced gun. I'll be right back, gonna get some bologna. Can't say much for mainstream appeal, but I personally like those long form content. The Superman compilation was a lot for me, but I did watch all the individual parts. That's the thing, because I tell myself I really enjoy long form content. I really enjoy it because while I'm working, I can put it on and I don't have to start hunting for a new video every few minutes. I can just put on a long form content and I can just let it play while I work. And I figured if I like that sort of thing, there must be other people who also enjoy that sort of thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as popular a topic on YouTube as it is. So that was also kind of my thinking. I'm like, well, if I like it, there must be other people who like it too. It's statistically impossible that I'm the only person who enjoys this kind of content. I'm back and I got my bologna. Excellent. I downloaded the High Guardian Spice mega video for long road trips. Oh, excellent. It makes me happy to hear. I still kind of like the High Guardian Spice video. I think if I rewatch it, it's probably kind of cringe if I see the way I talked about certain things and the way I presented certain things. But if I just think about it as it exists in my memory, I'm still kind of happy with that video. And it's kind of insane how of the 3, possibly 4 if you want to include Magnifico, of the 4 big projects I've done so far, High Guardian Spice is unironically the best of them. Like, that's kind of really sad that High Guardian Spice is like the high point. Like, it's like, yeah, there's High Guardian Spice, and then there's like the rest of it. No, you're the only one in the universe, CPUF. Oh, okay, I understand. Thanks, Dana. Thanks for setting me straight. CPUF, once again, those moments are the reason why I love your video. You deep dive into recreators to explain the meaning of homage was in itself one of the best video essays I've seen. Oh, thank you. That's the thing, because my concern is about the quality of the content, if I can put it that way. It's not so much the, oh, what if people don't like me? It's not that. It is, does this improve the quality of the content I am making? Like that's my thinking and approach to it. So it's this balance of like, okay, well, do I like it? Do I enjoy it? And also, does this make the quality better? This smudge is very strange. Is it density? Again, I've had to reinstall everything on this laptop, so all my settings are off. I don't have any of like my settings on my work machine. There we go, it's good enough. And then I just wanted to grab him and do this. What's this? Okay. Do this, do overlay, I think. And then do like this color more or less. No, overlay is a bit too much. No, okay, I see. There we go. And let me see. I suppose so. If I do this. Yeah, okay, there we go. And just turn this a little bit down, and I'm gonna duplicate the line work. I know what I can do. Okay, duplicate the line work, turn off that. I like your content because it's something I don't understand or know. You still make the joke or point comprehensible. That's good to know, because the other trap is that I worry I'm over-explaining things that the audience might already know. And then I'm like, okay, well, am I insulting the audience by referencing things that are kind of obvious? Or is it better to just kind of explain it for people who might not be as knowledgeable about the topic? And that's a delicate balance as well, because you don't want to come across as condescending. I'll put this underneath. Oh, that's a very strange transition for that song, for it to just suddenly stop and then immediately start playing the next one. What else do I know what else. We can just drop like a very basic background on him. Do that. And let's just grab like something like that. Let's make it red. Do that. Dark. And let's throw a gray. I don't know whether I have like any splatter in my effects folder, but we'll have a look. It might. Oh no, they added it. Okay. Red, do it like really dark. Make this dark as well, because yes, okay. And then make it big. Okay, it does have a big particle size. Okay. For me personally, I don't understand the art side of films, so it's good for you to explain it to me. That's good. Like I said, my thing is just I don't want to come across as condescending, because that's never my intention. And it can be difficult. And I think that might be a trap that I'm falling into, where it's like, well, you can't account for the knowledge of your entire user base. That's just not something you can do. That's never going to be something you can do, is to account for absolutely everybody who might watch your video. So it might just be I'm overthinking that part, because I do have a tendency to overthink things. That's just kind of a problem I have in general. What is monster slip? Oh, are we stuttering? Okay, give it a sec. Oh, I'll give it a sec so I can think. It more depends on tone from the person. I love your insight that all your videos have. Okay, well that's good. Hopefully this comes through and that I'm not stuttering to oblivion here. But I'll just keep talking until it eventually gives me back to my excellent signal. There is also an aspect to deep diving bad content which I can't help but admire. I could spend an entire year dissecting Beauty and the Beast, but ask me to talk about 8 Crazy Nights and it's stuttering. Okay. Oh, we'll just give it a second. I won't say anything interesting in the meantime. Like, what can I talk about that's like uninteresting until it gives me a good signal again? Wi-Fi. Yeah, no, I've got an error here. It's giving me an error for feedback. So it's on my side, it's not your... Okay, there we go. Back to excellent. Hello. I'm back. I'm back to excellent. Hello, everyone. Anyway, Adam, you were saying there's also an aspect to deep dive bad content, which I can't help but admire. I could spend an entire year dissecting Beauty and the Beast, but ask me to talk about 8 Crazy Nights and ... Yeah, I think I'm the opposite. When David Lynch passed away, there was a quote of his going around that said that whenever a good movie comes out, people always want to talk about it. And he kind of looked disgusted, and he said simply, the movie is the conversation. And I think that's kind of how I approach it, where if something is good, I don't really want to talk and discuss it as much unless it's like a specific angle, because the movie itself is the discussion. The movie is the discussion. The movie is the quality. I'll duplicate him again. I have another idea. Turn that off. Go here. Turn this off. Turn that on. Lock this. Yeah, let's do it here. And then just... Oh, wait, the wrong brush. Here we go. Just do that. Turn this on, turn this on. Move this guy a little here. And turn it to multiply. Yeah. Multiply, lighten it. Then go here and go blur, Gaussian blur. And then turn that up to like massive. There we go. Is it still buffering, guys? No, it's not buffering. It's excellent on my side. A random question. Have you ever been to a video arcade? I asked because I've been getting into arcade machines restoration videos lately. I've only ever been to one while I was visiting my friend in America. I really liked it. That was a lot of fun. It was a barcade. It was in Los Angeles. That was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. But that's the only arcade I've like ever been to. Which sucks because I had a good time and I would love to go to more of them. I just don't think they're really a thing in my country. Let's crop him. Actually, we can crop him more. Hold on. Let me just crop him all the way here. And then there's too much head space. So let's crop that again. There we go. That's more or less. And that's Leon. Oh, wait. Let me sign it. What's this? Okay, that's the shine layer. So that'd be fine to sign with. G pen 10's fine. There we go. And there's Leon. Let me make this big again and then I can jump in chat and just talk a bit before I say good night for the night, but we can talk a bit before I go. Again, I keep wanting to like use my VTuber setup, but my internet is very, very strange. I'm happy to, well, I'm not happy, but it very much is the connection itself. It's not the laptop, because this is a completely different laptop, a much stronger laptop. So that tells me something. So I might have to like ask my internet provider why that's happening and how to prevent it from happening and all of that like good stuff. Good old calling the government agencies to help you. It's a lot of fun. I think there are points in your videos that could be more succinct for the sake of pacing, but I can't recall any moments where it felt like you were wasting the audience's time. That's good at least. Also, hey Shady Durags, somebody actually asked me about you in a Tumblr ask. they asked me if I knew about you, and I said no. And I went to go check your channel, and I still need to watch your videos, but like the topics you discussed looked really cool. And I saw you had a video about Fillmore, and immediately I was like, okay, no, this person's cool. If this person likes Fillmore, then they're a cool person, because Fillmore is such a good show, and I never see people talk about it. Like, that show went completely under the radar for some reason. And I'm like, Fillmore is a children's cartoon series that is a police procedural show. Like, that's literally what it is. And that's incredible. Like, why is nobody talking about it? It's so good. Just like concept alone is fascinating. It's like, imagine trying to pitch that to a studio. Imagine coming to the studio and goes, okay, I've got an idea for a cartoon, right? So you know Silence of the Lambs? What if we do Silence of the Lambs, except like the police and the FBI agents are like school monitors, and they like solve crime, but it's like on school grounds. Imagine trying to explain that to the person who greenlights your show. It's just like, no, we're not doing that, but they did, and it's a great show. And I saw Shady Do-Rags talk about it, and that made me happy, because I've never seen anyone else talk about Fillmore, and I'm kind of mad about it, because Fillmore is really good. I do like the drawing, but there's a critical part in my mind that I keep having to tell shut up. Is it the trigger stuff? Because yeah, I just quickly slapped a gun on there. I don't know why I thought deciding to try and draw a mechanical thing while talking on a live stream when I can't pay 500% attention was a good idea, but that's the idea I went with, and that's how we ended here. So if it's that, yeah, you can tell me, but it's fine. It's fine. It was so imaginative how they fit police tropes into the school setting. Yeah, it's such a good show. It's like, and the thing is, even if you like get over the setup that it's a police procedural show taking place at a school, like, it's just an interesting, fun show. Like, it's fun to watch. It's fun to sit and just like enjoy as a show, even if you have no idea that it's supposed to be like a parody or like an interpretation of a certain genre. It's just it's a fun show. It's fun on its own merits as well. I don't think I can accept those cool points. Fillmore was an audience recommendation. I'm still in the middle of watching it. I talked about it because people asked me to. Oh, well, that's no worries, because it still means that people get to watch, like, Fillmore gets introduced to people. And, sorry, I bumped the mic. And Fillmore is great. And I really like Fillmore. And it just made me, like, super happy to see somebody talk about it, because nobody ever does. Well done, Seapuff. Thank you, Mr. Bender. I'm happy you like it. So the Moon Girl of the early 2000s. Maybe. Yeah, I need to, like, acquaint myself with Moon Girl more. Because, yeah, that's, like, a topic at some point one can talk about as well. I'm getting, like, video ideas just chatting to you guys, and this is bad, because I have to focus on doing Velma Season 2. It tells you, like, my absolute dread having to sit down and watch Velma 2, because I keep thinking of better things to make videos about. But one thing I could make a video about is, like, the different Sailor Moon, like, copycats. That's kind of a bad word to call it, but you know what I mean. Like, all these anime that came out directly after Sailor Moon that weren't just like magical girl shows, but they were specifically trying to ape Sailor Moon itself, both from the West as well as Japan. Like, that's a very interesting topic. You could make like a whole video about that. Anyway, again, I keep thinking of better things to talk about instead of watching Velma. But Velma is next. I am committed to doing Velma. I finished the project that we just wrapped. I haven't gotten the message from my producer that we wrapped on this project, but we had a bit of a crunch on the last day due to some changes that had to be implemented. And since we pulled that crunch, I haven't had any word back regarding changes. So I assume that we're wrapped. I think that on the producer side of things, they're just like checking whether everything's in place now before we get the word that yes, the show is wrapped. Point is, now that show is, or project is relatively finished, question mark, I can now devote some time into working on the next video, and the next video is going to be Velma 2. Like, people have been asking for it for a very long time, and I think I've only seen one video thumbnail come past me that's like talking about Velma 2 at all. Like nobody wants to talk about Velma 2 because nobody wants to watch Velma 2. So I'll do it because I have like a supernatural ability of like watching bad content. Like I can do it without like dying inside. All of Fillmore is in HD is currently on YouTube, so it's really easy to find. Oh, I need to go find it. I need to rewatch that show. It's so good. I can't help but like The Cell a bit, even if it's just Silence of the Lambs with some cyberpunk stuff and Nine Inch Nails videos glued on. Yeah, the thing is, that's such a perfect way to describe it as well. That is like the perfect... Yeah, that's the movie. That's what the movie is. I want to know what it was like to pitch gummy bears to Disney channels. So you know those things George Lucas called Ewoks? Ewoks? What if we shut up and take our money? That's probably exactly how it went. Gummy bears, because that was the very first television project Disney ever did. There's an entire conversation you can have about the history of gummy bears. Because like, there's DuckTales, right? And DuckTales was a whole thing. And before DuckTales, there was gummy bears. And gummy bears paved the road for DuckTales to happen. Like that's how we got the step to DuckTales. We needed gummy bears for DuckTales to happen. And the reason Gummy Bears is the way it is because the Disney animation department at the time, they only had animators that were trained on doing feature-length film quality animation. So Gummy Bears and like the first few episodes of DuckTales and the first few episodes of Gargoyles has like phenomenal animation in it. And it's because the animators were trained on making feature-length film Disney movies. And they hadn't like built a television department yet. Again, fascinating topic. I can talk about that like all day. Really, really interesting. But I bet you anything that the Gummy Bears, because it's supposed to be a sponsored cartoon by the Gummy Bears candy. Like it's literally sponsored by Gummy Bears. Similar to like Rainbow Bright and My Little Pony and Transformers and all of that. Like Gummy Bears, it's supposed to be the candy. And I bet you anything they did sell it as like, oh, it's going to be like an Ewoks cartoon, except it's going to be fantasy. Like if I had to pitch it to a guy in an elevator, that's exactly the way I would do it. Kind of curious, what are movies or TV shows / anime that you recommend for someone? Oh, geez, that's a big topic. I am kind of really hyper-focused on Macross Do You Remember Love? It's a 3-hour movie, but... if you are like into old school anime, or if you are curious about old school anime and you don't want to watch Akira, because Akira is extremely violent and Akira's plot is rather confusing. But if you really want to watch like an old school 80s anime that is like some of the highest quality stuff that the 80s anime put out at the time, that is also a good story, then watch Do You Remember Love? That movie is phenomenal. I watched it recently for the first time. And I did make a video that's like my top 10, well, my top 5 favorite anime TV shows and my top 5 favorite anime movies. And after watching Do You Remember Love, I would have to like revise that list because that like jumped up to like number 3 or something. It's such an insanely good film. It's so good. So good. It's such a good film. But yeah, that's quite a broad topic. Whenever people ask me, what would you recommend? My question to them is always, well, what do you already like? Because my thinking is, if you have certain genres and things that you like, you should try and find things within that genre in the new medium, because it'll be an easier way for you to transition into those kinds of things, rather than diving headfirst into what people tell you is like the best of the medium. And it's why I have a problem when people say, oh, I've never watched anime, what should I watch first? And everybody recommends like Sword Art Online or like One Piece. And I'm like, dude, you can't take somebody who's never watched anime before and tell them to watch One Piece. That's not going to work. Even if they like it, that's not going to work. One Piece has like almost 2,000 episodes. What are you doing to the poor person? And Sword Art Online, it's, first of all, it's quite mid, but also I don't think that's a good representation of what anime can be. Like that's not what I would suggest to somebody. as like their very first exposure to anime. I don't think that's a good suggestion. So my way of doing that kind of thing is to just ask, okay, well, what do you like? Because based on what you like, I can then try and recommend things that kind of line up to that. And then if you want to watch like the best of the medium, you can check them out. But going with things you already like will give you just kind of a good way as like a starter, as like your very first thing in the medium. Have you ever seen an anime called Steam Boy? I have not, but I know of it. I've seen a few Otomo films, but I haven't seen Steam Boy. I really like Metropolis. That's on my top 5 anime films. Metropolis is really good. And like people say it, Osamu Tezuka. But the thing is, it's not the Osamu Tezuka manga, because I've got the Osamu Tezuka manga. The Metropolis movie is 1000% an Otomo Katsuhara production. It's more his movie than it is a Tezuka story. I tend to watch various things from Konosuba to Black Lagoon to Angel Beats, etc. I kind of ping pong through the spectrum. From what I can tell, I tend to lean to anything that has a focus of what it is. Okay, so you kind of have like a kind of an idea already. That's an interesting one though. Like, I can just recommend you the things I like, I suppose. Like I said, I have the video where it's like my top 5 anime series and anime movies. But other things I could suggest. What? I mean, I keep wanting to say Rose of Versailles, but I don't actually know whether Rose of Versailles is a good thing to recommend to people. There is a remake of Rose of Versailles coming out soon, so maybe go with that if you don't want to watch an anime from 1979. And it has some of the most melodramatic cinematography you've ever seen in your life. It is really, really melodramatic. It's a really good show, but you do kind of have to adjust to its tone, because it's almost comedic. It's almost comedic in some places. But the remake, I actually need to check who is the director of the remake and like what studio is doing it and stuff. Because I know it's coming out. I just haven't really looked into it because I like the original so much. So I haven't like read, okay, well, what's the remake? Because I'm like, well, I would just watch the original because that's the kind of thing I like. One thing's for sure, if anyone answers that question with Perfect Blue, they are a sociopath. And then a little bit further down, it says, I think my fave anime movie is probably Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue is on my top 5 list. I love Perfect Blue, but Perfect Blue is, you have to be careful recommending that to people. Perfect Blue is, yeah. I don't know what to equate Perfect Blue as. When I was like renting anime from the video store, Perfect Blue was on the shelf, but I never rented it because I was aware that Perfect Blue was one of those films where you're a child and there's this movie and you just know from like hearsay that it is the scariest movie that exists. It's the most hardcore movie that exists. It's like the super taboo movie that only adults can watch, and you're like to a degree that you're actually scared of it. And that was Perfect Blue for me when I was a child. And having watched Perfect Blue and as one of my favorite movies, it's not that far off in terms of like difficult to recommend to people. But if you can stomach Perfect Blue, I also highly recommend Perfect Blue. Just like look up a trigger warning list. Because there's a hell of a lot of triggers and they are very upsetting, and they're upsetting on purpose. Like, it's not an easy watch, I'll put it that way. I've seen Perfect Blue about 4 times because I can't sit and watch it just to watch something to enjoy it. I have to be like, okay, I am going to sit down and watch Perfect Blue. I need to be in the headspace to watch Perfect Blue. I've been watching Astro Boy 2003 lately and it's been amazing. Would wholeheartedly recommend that as a first anime. I have not watched the 2003 one. I haven't watched the original that much either, but I have the manga. I'm more aware of like Astro Boy in the manga than I am the TV show, which is kind of weird, but hey, that's how it goes. Since you're into Kamen Rider Kuga, I'd recommend the anime Futo Tantai. It's a direct sequel to Kamen Rider W. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll check that out. I am still watching Kuga. I watched a lot more of it. It's a bit of a rut at the moment. It's kind of falling into the formula pacing for me, but the thing is, it was released, you were supposed to watch it like one episode a week, not binge the whole thing. So I'm not like criticizing the show for that. That's just the way I'm consuming the show, and it's not the show's problem. A lot of recommends, noting it all down. Okay, cool, excellent. Yeah, other things I would recommend is, like I said, Do You Remember Love is the big one. I want to get back into Macross 7, but Macross 7 is not actually a good show, so I don't know whether I'd recommend it. Outlaw Star is probably one I would recommend a lot more. If you enjoy Firefly, if you enjoy, what else? Firefly is the one everybody recommends it to. If you like the space cowboy kind of genre, if you like Cowboy Bebop, if you like Outlaws, no, if you like Firefly, if you like that setting of like space smugglers, like an entire show about Han Solo smuggling, Outlaw Star is a really, really good show. It's got a lot of personality. It's very anime in some of its tropes, but if you are like in the mood for watching something with a lot of 90s anime tropes in it, that's a really good show to sit down and watch. I just had the title of another show in my head and I completely forgot what it was. I told someone to watch Berserk in front of another friend who watched a lot of anime, and he went, no, yeah, don't recommend Berserk as like a first time anime to people. That's very mean. Don't do that. What do you think of Fantastic Four trailer? I have not watched it. Because like, this is going to sound weird. It's not the movie's fault. But the second I hear the word Fantastic Four movie, the thing that pops into my head is Fan-4-Stick. And it's just because the name Fan-4-Stick is so iconic. That's such an iconic name. It was not intentional. It's like made to make fun of the movie. But that's like all I can think of is Fan-4-Stick. Okay, somebody said Trigun, and oh, it was Dana. 100,000% correct. Watch Trigun. Don't watch the new Trigun. Watch the 1998 Trigun. Trigun is one of the best anime ever made, and I don't say that lightly. Like, Trigun the original is fucking phenomenal story writing. It is insane how good the original Trigun is. I made my friend watch it just through Discord. They started watching it, and as they were like Discord messaging me as they were working through it, I started watching it as well. So by the time it reached the finale, we were kind of watching it at the same time and like messaging each other, and just like having her like screaming at me in the finale. I was like, yeah, I know. Trigun is so good. Please watch Trigun. Please watch Trigun. It's so good. Cowboy Bebop is a fun one. Cowboy Bebop is like one of the best ever made, but it's almost like a cliche to say that. It's true. It's true that it's one of the best anime ever made, but it seems like an obvious suggestion. Everybody is always going to recommend Cowboy Bebop, which they should, because it's Cowboy Bebop. And even if you don't want to watch the entire TV series, I recommend Cowboy Bebop the movie. It's really good. It's a fantastic film. It's another one of my favorites is the Cowboy Bebop film. Yeah, easily recommend Cowboy Bebop. But I think that's almost one where I'm like, is there anybody who likes anime who hasn't watched Cowboy Bebop? There probably is. Oh wait, there's a movie? Yeah, Knocking on Heaven's Door. It's incredible. It's like, it's such a good movie. Knocking on Heaven's Door is like one of the best anime movies I've ever watched. It's phenomenal. And the best thing about the movie is you don't have to have watched Cowboy Bebop the series to watch the movie. You can just watch the movie without any context whatsoever and you will understand it. It's so good. You need zero anime appreciation to appreciate Trigun's story. It hits so well on so many levels. It's true. That's the thing. Like, Trigun is just so easy. Oh, is my internet chugging? I'm seeing somebody talk about tourists. Every time somebody mentions tourists, it's like, is my internet going down again? I actually never managed to finish Cowboy Bebop until I went to Tsunami Aftermath, where I experienced it with other chatters on top of CRT. Oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds incredible, honestly. I'm kind of jealous. Speaking of foreign media, thoughts on Ninja 2 becoming the highest grossing animated film in the world? I need to watch it. I've been seeing people talk about it. Zhao Hongshu is like lit at the moment. Everybody on Zhao was talking about it. And everybody on Zhao Hongshu are telling like the Westerners, if you are new to Red Note, you need to watch this movie. If you have not heard of it, you need to watch this movie. So it's definitely on my radar. It's just, again, I've been busy in the production and I can't like watch a movie while I'm working because I want to pay attention to the movie. That's also why I haven't watched a lot of anime recently, because I need something stupid to watch while I work so I don't have to absorb anything. That's why I watch a lot of drama on YouTube, because it's so mindless and stupid. I could just have it going and be like, wow, that's crazy, and like not think of it further than that. I watched Another and Paranoia Agent enough times to have lost count. Yeah, that's understandable. I need to rewatch Paranoia Agent again. I think I didn't understand. I got it, but I don't think I appreciated it as much as I would on a rewatch. Oh no, Puff, lol. I mean to your question on who hasn't seen Bebop. Okay, fair. The Super S movie is good, unlike the Super S season. Yeah, the Super S Sailor Moon movie is the worst of the 3 movies, but it's better than the entirety of the Super S season. Like, the Super S season of Sailor Moon is so bad. It's like her genuinely terrible. It's so bad. And I love Sailor Moon. I love Sailor Moon to death. The 4th season is not good. K-Star, watch Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, and My Neighbor Totoro. Yeah, again, easy recommends. Is this something Chinese? Yeah, it's a Chinese animated movie that came out recently, and it's just raking in money at the moment. It's CG animated, it's not 2D. I think China is more interested in doing CG movies than they are doing 2D movies, which is okay, fine. But apparently it's really doing numbers. So I'm curious in looking into it. I've been wanting to see the Journey to the West movie that China made a while ago. The Monkey King, it's something like that. They made a movie about it, animated film, not that long ago, and I heard that was pretty good. Especially if you love Freyden. Oh, Lotus War. I need to watch them as well. They aired on our television once, but because the people who worked on our TV didn't know what they were doing, Record of Lotus War would air on actual television in Japanese without subtitles. And it's like, what? Why did you do this? So I need to watch Record of Lotus War properly, because I've only seen clips of it, like, without any subtitles. Have I seen Sailor Moon Cosmos yet? No, because I'm considering doing a video about it, because I like Sailor Moon so much. And it would be an easy talking point, because I can just talk about Sailor Moon. And I can talk about the final arc, which is my favorite. And I can talk about the themes that it has regarding, like, the entropy and the nature of existence, and good existing without evil, and stagnation versus dynamicism, and how stagnation might be free of suffering, but it's stagnant as per the name, whereas how do you say it? Dynamicism. No, that's not how you say it, but you know what I mean. How that is like the better way to live your life, but there is no way to have that without having the struggle between good and evil. Like, very interesting topics that's in the final arc of Sailor Moon, and the way that they interpreted it in the new movie, because I'm interested to see how they do that. Strongly disagree with trying to intro people to Ghibli through Spirited Away. The most accessible gateway is in fact Howl's Moving Castle, for reasons I'll get into some other time. The thing is, and you guys are gonna roast me, and it's fine if you do, I don't really like Howl's Moving Castle very much. It's not that it's terrible or anything, I don't really like it. I don't really like that movie. It's got some of the best music in all of Ghibli, but I don't like the film. I don't enjoy it. Castle in the Sky is my favorite. That's like my second favorite animated movie of all time. Just in general, it's incredible. It's so good. There's a 5th season. Or do you mean of Sailor Moon? Yes. Sailor Stars. You know this 80-year-old man. You've got an Utena profile picture. You know this. You've got Sanji as your avatar. You know there's a 5th season of Sailor Moon. Come on now. I like the Sailor Moon reboot anime and movies, but the animation felt a bit too simple to me, at least. I don't know how to describe it. You are correct. Because, oh, that's an entire topic in of itself as well. I'm going to go for another 15 minutes, and I'm going to say goodnight. But the animation for the Sailor Moon remakes was a clusterfuck of note. Like, the first 2 seasons, the animation was outsourced to a animation studio in the Philippines, which had never worked on anything before. And just that alone, I don't understand why Toei thought they would take one of their flagship franchises that brings in over 3 billion yen per year in merchandise sales and then hand it off to an outsourced animation studio in the Philippines which has never worked on anything before. That's crazy! Why would you do that? That makes no sense. Anyway, they gave it to a different studio in season 3 moving forward, but they still didn't give it an A studio. Like, they didn't go with like an A grade studio, and I don't understand why. Why would you not do that? Anyway. A lot of women I know that like Howl's Moving Castle like Howl himself. That's the thing though, I don't really like Howl. He doesn't really have much of a personality. Like, he shows up, he acts charming. I wouldn't say he is charming, he acts charming. Then when she sees him again, he's a whining, crying man baby. And then for the rest of the movie, he's kind of not really present. He's kind of off doing his own thing. I don't know. I'm being a little uncharitable towards Howl's Moving Castle. It's much better than I'm giving it credit for. Than I'm saying. It's just I don't like it. You understand what I mean? It's not that the movie is bad. It's just that I don't like it. And those are two very separate things. Liking something and something being bad can sometimes be completely separated from each other. And Howl is that kind of movie for me, where I can recognize that it's a good movie. It's just that I don't like it. And I mean, that's fine. Not much anyone can do about that, right? I've watched it like 5 times. I have sat down and watched Howl's Moving Castle 5 times, trying like so hard to understand what it is that people like about it. And as I got older and the more I watched it, I realized, no, the only thing that's wrong here is the fact that I don't like it. It's not that deep. That's simply what it is. And it's like, oh, okay. Not much I can do about that. Ghibli KGB is knocking on your door for such an opinion. Yeah, that's fair. That's fine. They can. Understandable. Understandable. Have a nice day. I know Freyden is a good anime, but I just do not like it. I need to get down to Freyden because of reasons in my personal life. It has been pushed further back in what things I would like to watch. It was on my radar for a very, very long time that that's something I need to watch like really soon. But then, you know, like the end of last year happened and it's just been pushed back because of the themes in that anime, and I don't really feel like unpacking those emotions right now. So Freyden is a bit on the back burner for now. Because of that. So that kind of sucks, but because I don't doubt that it's going to be amazing when I watch it, but I'm not capable of watching it yet. K-Star C-Star Plays says, just realized, what is a movie or show to watch to study animation from? Also, what do you recommend for line art sizing for the line art? It depends on your brush and what kind of look you're going for. For line art in my work, I tend to hover around between 6 and 12 is like my brush size. Regardless of which brush I'm using, that's kind of the size I'm working with. Otherwise, if I'm trying to mimic like anime itself, there is a specific anime brush that has no anti-aliasing and it doesn't have a lot of pen pressure, and that sits at like 4 pixels. And it just stays there. It doesn't really move up or down. You keep it at 5 and you just keep it at 4. Keep it at 4 and use 4 for the entire thing, so it has a uniform line width. Dick Sailor Moon, in my opinion, is a curiosity, but it hasn't clearly made much transition to modern days. The Dick Sailor Moon dub. The Dick Sailor Moon dub is the reason I watch anime subtitled, because I was 12 when I watched the first Sailor Moon movie. I had never watched anything Sailor Moon before. I had a very, very rough idea of what Sailor Moon was because of the internet. And I found it at like a random video store for sale. It was the very first DVD I ever bought. And I watched it dubbed because why wouldn't I? I grew up on dubbed anime on VHS. And I watched the Dick dub for the first Sailor Moon movie, and 12-year-old me was like, what the fuck? What the hell am I watching? And then I switched to Japanese with subtitles, and I was like, you know what? We're sticking to this from now on. We're not watching anything dubbed anymore. There are some things I watch dubbed, but you know what I mean. What does anti-aliasing do? Is it a bad thing to use? No. Anti-aliasing, let me show you quickly. Serial Experiments Lane was my first DVD. I thought you were going to say Serial Experiments Lane was your first anime, and I was about to say, oh, good lord. Okay, anti-aliasing. Sorry for the flashbang here. So this brush I'm using right now, let's just go to turn a pen. So when a brush has anti-aliasing, it looks like this. Wait, let me actually zoom out to... let me do this. Okay, so that's anti-aliasing. If you zoom in, you can see the edges of the line work is doing this. If I turn off anti-aliasing, there is no like softening of the line. It is a harsh line. Now, the thing is, if you work in animation, you don't want anti-aliasing, because the problem is if you have anti-aliasing on and you use the full bucket where you want to now color this, it creates a halo effect like this. So you can't just go in and color things just like as is. You need to like go underneath and like color it underneath manually. And if you've got anti-aliasing in, then you have to do this. You can't use the full bucket at all, because if you use the full bucket, then once again, you get a halo. Whereas if you don't have anti-aliasing, at all, and you just fill something, there's no halo effect. So that's what anti-aliasing is. It's not bad to use, but we tend to avoid it. Oh, let me go back to Leon. We tend to avoid it in animation because it makes the process a lot longer to do the color parts. I use TV Paint, which TV Paint luckily has a sort of built-in, I don't know what to call it. It's got a smart function where it's able to recognize when something is line art, so it makes coloring a lot easier. But for the most part, in traditional hand-to-hand, you try to avoid anti-aliasing as much as you can. Freyden is pronounced with E sound, like the end of movie. Oh, so it's Freyden before the first E. I totally get the theme and avoidance. I have not played Bloodborne because of the Lovecraftian theme. I mean, that's fair. So it's Freyden. Okay. I thought it was Freyden, but that's just me. Technically, my first anime is Speed Racer. Yeah, like technically, my first anime is Heidi, Girl of the Alps. Technically. But if you want to talk about anime that's like anime that I know was anime when I watched it, what would that be? What would be the first anime I watched knowing what anime is? Probably Patlabor, like the first Patlabor movie. It might be the first Patlabor movie. Either that or Megazone 23. It might actually be Megazone 23 Part 3. Yeah, come to think of it, I think I watched Megazone 23 Part 3 before I watched Patlabor. So that's probably my first anime that I knew was an anime watching it. So that explains why that happens when I fill on the layers of my line arts. Yeah, that's why that's happening. Exactly, that was perfect. Okay, cool. Join the Patlabor fandom. Patlabor, watch the OVAs. I've got the OVAs. I need to watch them. Because I've seen the first movie, which that's another one of my favorites. I've seen the second movie. Not my favorite. My brother prefers the second movie to the first one. I've seen like that weird XVII Patlabor movie. I didn't really like that one. I think I either have the TV series or the OVAs on DVD. I need to sit down and watch them though. But I mean, it's Mamoru Oshii, right? Indie Gotcha is just screaming, watch Patlabor. You are correct. People should watch Patlabor. Everybody watch Do You Remember Love and watch Patlabor. Like, that's your assignment from the live stream, is to watch the first Patlabor movie and Macross Do You Remember Love. Macross is 3 hours long, just a warning, because it is a summary of the entire Macross TV show. But just watch it as a movie. You don't need to watch the entirety of the Macross TV show. Just watch Do You Remember Love? It's a incredible film, and watch it if you can on as big a screen as you can, like on your TV or stuff or something. Watch it on a bigger screen. You can watch it on your laptop, but it is so gorgeous. It has some of the most amazing animation I've ever seen in my life. So to watch it on like a bigger screen in like high definition is just, it's insane. I really want to watch that movie in like a theater. I made a community post about it where I was like, nobody else in this entire country would go watch it, but play it in the theater and I will be the only person in that theater watching that on the big screen. I really want to see that on a big screen. And my sister got started on anime with Cardcaptor Sakura. Unfortunately, it was the dub version. I'm not sure how good the dub of Sakura is. It can't be worse than the Dick Sailor Moon dub. The Dick Sailor Moon dub is so bad. It's like genuinely horrendous. And it's not just like the censorship, it's like literally the way that the voice actors were directed to perform. Like the script is really weird, and the way that the voice actors were told to perform is also very strange. Like, I don't know why these decisions were made. Rising of the Shield Hero is my first anime to watch. That rings a bell, but I don't like remember it off the top of my head. This reminded me that I really need to go watch Revolutionary Girl Utena movie. It's pretty. It's not as good as the TV show. The Utena movie, I'm glad it exists, but I like it because it looks good. I don't like it as a substitute for the TV show. Like the TV show is peak. It's funny, okay? Yeah, no, I do admit that Dick Sailor Moon is hilarious. There are some moments, like I have a bunch of clips from the Dick dub, simply because it's some of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Sometimes unintentionally, sometimes intentionally. It genuinely is really, really funny. We're cousins, C-Pop, honest. At least Nephrite isn't constantly saying, hey, Zoisite, I'm Nephrite, in case you forgot. True. That is true. I've been trying to find some fun fact about Jack Kirby for the stream, but my sources have temporarily dried up. Sorry. The French Cardcaptor theme is such a jam. I should look that up. Because like the Italian theme of Urusei Yatsura is really good. It's a really good theme song. Don't worry, I already watched the TV show. Okay, yeah, no, watch the movie then, because it's good looking and it has incredible music. The Utena movie's finale, just based on sound and visuals alone, is like, I don't want to say one of the best things I've ever seen, because it's not really the best thing I've ever seen, but while you're watching it, it feels like the best thing you've ever seen, if that makes sense. Okay, the French card. She's a card. Yeah, I think I included that clip somewhere. No, I haven't included that clip somewhere. I have it on Tumblr, where there is an interview with Ikuhara where they ask him, how is Utena different in the movie based on the TV show? And then it cuts to Ikuhara, and after a brief moment of thinking, all he says is, she turns into a car, and then it cuts to the next question. It's so funny. It's so iconic. Love the song they play during Utena and Anthy's dance. Yes, that's really good as well. But like the entire ending where it starts with Rainbow Revolution and then goes into is it the Sunlit Garden? No, it's not the Sunlit Garden. I forget the name of that song, but like that whole transition, it's like 9 minutes long. It's so good. Absolutely amazing. Remembering on Cardcaptor existing reminds me of Lily Orchard and how she has such weird idea of what anime is due to loving Cardcaptors even originally, but mainly because she's xenophobic as fuck. Yeah, yeah. Lily Orchard is a creator on YouTube who has opinions, and they're very often not good. That's what I will say, because I don't like bad mouthing other creators. I feel it's a bad look to like shit on other creators. You know, it's not very classy to just like scream and yell about how like terrible another creator is, but Lily Orchard exists. let's say that she exists and she has opinions. I thought you were talking nonsense when you mentioned it, and I thought, okay, CPuff is just trolling. Then I saw it and was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not trolling. It happens. She turns into a car. And like, it's funny because it is just as ridiculous as it sounds, and yet in some bizarro, crazy way, I kind of see what Ikuhara was doing there in terms of like the metaphor. Like, she turns into a car, but she starts to rust, and Anthe has to be the one to turn the key in the ignition so that they can both leave. Like, I understand, like, I get it. I understand the metaphor, I understand what you mean. It doesn't change the fact that Utena turns into a car at the end of the movie. But the thing is, the fact that Ikuhara just like blatantly says that in interviews, like at the time when it was coming out, it's very clear that he himself is aware of the fact that it's kind of insane. Like, it's very aware he's in on the joke. Like, genuinely recommend. It's such an insane thing for a movie to do. I just remember Precure isn't a Sailor Moon knockoff, it's a Super Sentai knockoff. Well, the thing is, Sailor Moon itself is a Super Sentai knockoff. So like where do we end the comparison at that point? Because Sailor Moon is such a Super Sentai knockoff that there is a Super Sentai show of Sailor Moon. And the thing is, the Sailor Moon live action Super Sentai show is really good. That's the weird thing. The live action Sailor Moon show has like a budget of $5 per episode, and it's really good. It's like a phenomenal show. It's so good. You just kind of have to adjust to the fact that the effects look terrible. But again, it's a Super Sentai show. Like, the effects being terrible it's not a bug, it's a feature, you know? I haven't watched Utena, this sounds bonkers. I made a video trying to explain how to watch Utena, the TV show, because it is so steeped in visual metaphor that I can only watch that show 3 episodes at a time before my brain starts melting, because there's so much to keep track of. Like, there's so much double talk. Everything everybody says is significant in like 3 different ways. Every visual is super important, except when it's not, and it's just Ikuhara trying to troll you. But 90% of the show is 100% on purpose and meaning of something. And it's extremely visually dense. And this is why I get very annoyed when like Steven Universe and She-Ra and all those, when they copy it, because they only copy the most surface level visuals of it without understanding anything that's actually going on in that show. It's very, I don't know if it's because the themes of the show went over their head. That sounds like such a rude thing to say, but I'm like, I don't know how else to interpret your interpretation of it. If your interpretation of Utena is just the fact that it's lesbians with swords, I don't know how to interpret how you saw this show, because that's the most reductive takeaway of Utena I've ever seen in my life. It's like saying, what can I compare it to? It's like saying, oh, The Godfather is about the mafia. It's like The Godfather 2 is about the mafia. And it's like, yeah, I guess, right? Oh, no. What do you think about 3D pretending to be 2D, like the Watchmen series and the new Spider-Man series? Complex feelings, because I'm a 2D animator. I've always been a 2D animator. I know how to do 3D. I've been employed to do 3D, but being a 2D animator is something in your genes. It's like in your DNA. And I'm kind of joking when I say that, but also not, because we were legit told that when I went to college. You either are a 2D animator or you're not. That's kind of what it boils down to. So 3D pretending to be 2D, it's a disappointment when I find out it's 3D. Like the Shadow Generations prologue dropped, and and I saw screenshots of it, and I was like, wow, that looks awesome. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, it's CG pretending to be 2D. Okay, that's disappointing. I still liked it, but it was disappointing. I would have been happier if they did it 2D, quite frankly. Animate it in 3D and then trace over it to make it 2D. I don't care. Just do it in 2D. You're talking to somebody else, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. Even though I watched it, I feel like I need to watch Utena again to really understand all the metaphors. Yeah, I've watched like 4 times and there's still stuff where I'm like, oh, wait, I never thought about that. You know, like you see a conversation, you've seen it 4 times already, then you rewatch it and suddenly you realize a different side of what's being said and you're like, oh, fuck, I never even thought of that. Now it's so obvious. Have you seen Klaus? Yes, I've seen Klaus. Klaus is very good. I actually like the way Klaus is animated. I do kind of question the decision to try and make 2D look like CG. I don't really understand why, but it is very good 2D. I'm just confused as to why they tried to make it look 3D. It's like, well, why do that? I don't understand, but whatever. It was a choice. Breaks down the door again. Guess who's back, ladies and gentlemen? Hey, da boy. I should be saying goodnight. It's like 10 minutes past midnight, but I'm yapping about Utena, so I can't stop. The only way to explain the Sailor Moon dub is that it's from the studio that brought you Inspector Gadget. They go, both are action hijinks, and we go, no, sorry, it's not the same. Yeah, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. What was, there's a channel that's become big recently, and it's just a stand-up comedian describing older movies to his friend who hasn't seen them yet. The channel's called This Aged Well, but he's got a little thing that he sings in the outro where he sings, "The past was doing its best," and like that's how I think about the Sailor Moon dub. It's like, the past was doing its best, leave him alone. like that. They tried. They tried. Have I seen Atlantis: The Lost Empire? Of course I have. It's really good. It's a genuinely good movie, even though I think it's pretty much just an animated version of Stargate. It's still good. Because, oh, you're off again, da boy? Okay. But yeah, Atlantis: The Lost Empire, it's basically just an animated version of Stargate, but at the same time, that's not a bad thing to be. Like, if you wanted to be, like, an animated version of something, being an animated version of Stargate is not a bad choice. It's like, yeah, okay, why not? Thanks for the time? Yeah. Oh, you're saying, I was saying goodbye to Indy? Oh, I thought you were just saying goodbye in general. I clearly need to start going to bed. My favorite This Aged Well episode is his description of Adventures in Babysitting. My favorite is Krippendorf's Tribe, because I grew up with that movie, and hearing it explained is so funny because it's 100% accurate to the movie, and it's terrible. Like, it's so bad. It's just, a lot of it is like, who thought this was okay? Really recommend This Aged Well, especially the Krippendorf's Tribe video. It's so funny. They are having a series, so rap session is my favorite Sailor Moon dick dubism. My favorite, see, it's more in the way that Serena says things than it is what she says. Like, there's a lot of cringe dialogue in it, just in terms of the script. But my fascination is the way that Serena says things. Like, the way that the voice actress was, like, directed is insane. The same actress voices 5 characters across the Sailor Moon dub. Yeah, that's pretty much par for the course. Because back in the day, they didn't pay a voice actor based on how many roles they did. They just paid the voice actor. So that's why in, like, older cartoons, you'll have a voice actor do several characters, because they wouldn't have to pay the voice actor for every single character. They would just pay them a lump sum. So it was just cheaper to get, like, a few people to do a lot of voices versus having, like, a lot of voice actors. And that's why and the Transformers cartoon, like a lot of those voice actors act like 4 characters each, and it's simply because of like payment. And then obviously when unionization happened, they argued that no, a voice actor should be paid for how many roles they do. You can't just pay them a lump sum and then cut corners and have them voice like 5 characters and then only pay them for 1 contract. That's unfair. So it no longer works like that. These days, an actor gets paid per role rather than like per contract, which is for the best, quite honestly. This is also why in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, you rarely see an episode where Rarity and Princess Luna are in the same episode. It's because they share a voice actress, and they didn't want to pay her for doing 2 roles in a singular episode. Like, as soon as you know that, it's like really difficult to not notice it. Sorry, when you said Serena, I immediately thought Serena from the Pokemon X and Y anime? No, Serena as in Usagi. Oops, didn't mean to click that. Have you seen the 1980s film about Tintin? They were cheap but good fun for their time. I've not seen the movies, but I've seen like the comics that they made of the movies, like the Blue Oranges, I think it's called. I have the comic of the Blue Oranges where it's literally just like screenshots turned into a comic. Like for the longest time, I didn't even know it was an animated movie. I literally just thought it was a comic. Anyway, Brad is the cutest guy in school. Yeah. Oh, I know, the Sailor Moon Dick dub-ism is the, what is it? It's with the cousins. There's one specific delivery where it's like, they were so stylish, and cousins too. Like something like that. It's incredible. But I need to start saying goodnight because the power is going to start going out. And then Robin Williams happened despite his efforts not to. Yeah. If Dick did the newest Sailor Moon dub, they'd probably have them use words like Skibbity, Riz, and Ohio. Yeah, like unironically, they actually would. Hi again, CPF dropped to say hi. Hi, I'm gonna say Relax, but it's not. It's Relax Crow. Hi there. I'm about to say goodnight because my power is gonna go off soon. Because we've got massive floods here, so I think the grid's been damaged or something. Something like that. They haven't told us anything. They just said, oh, by the way, your power's going out. Bye. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I assume it's because of the flooding, because our flooding has been pretty bad. I'm fine where I am, but, you know, it's a grid. So if the grid, like, gets damaged. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Bender. It's been fun, Seapuff. Have a good one. Thank you. And thanks for the membership. But yeah, I'm going to say goodnight. Oh, wow, it's Tuxedo Mask. I can't... Oh, yes, I know what you're quoting. It's like... Here's Tuxedo Mask. I can't believe it. That's a classic as well. But yes, I need to stop yapping. I've said yapping like 3 times now. I'm addicted to using that word, as the kids say. But I need to say goodnight because I want to watch something before the power goes out. Where's my end screen? Do that. And I shall see you guys next month. And hopefully I can figure out what's causing the tech issues. The stream only crashed once, I will say. There was only 1 crash. I will call that almost a win. It's not a win, but if we believe hard enough, then it might be a win. So I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to stop the music. Oh, last super chat. Thank you, Monster Slippery. Good night. Good night. And I shall see you guys next month. Turn this off. Turn the volume up. And did I say transition? Yes, I did. My feedback's just slow. Okay. Night, guys. See you again. Night.